Roll call, please.
Mayor Whites,
Here.
Vice Mayor Grunder,
Here.
Commissioner Bloodsworth,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
We will have our invocation by Guy Jones from Canvas Church, followed by our pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for this city, Lord. Thank you for your hand on this city, Lord. Thank you for your hand on this county, Lord, and the county next to us, Lord. And thank you for the lives that you spared in this last storm, Lord, and what you're doing here, Lord. I just thank you and give you all the honor and praise for the people you put in authority, Lord. I may not agree with all of them, Lord, but you put them in authority, Lord, and so I'm going to honor them because you're honorable and you call us to be honorable, Lord. So I ask people that people would set aside their feelings, Lord, and operate out of love, Lord. And we go back to loving our neighbor like we loved ourselves, Lord, and treating our neighbor and our customers how we want to be treated, Lord. And we continue to see this great city, this great county be blessed, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Jones. We appreciate that. Next on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda.
Make a motion, we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that tonight's agenda be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Tonight's agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, minutes of the July 18th, 2024 budget workshop, and minutes of the July 25th, 2024 commission meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We have no special presentations or unfinished business for tonight, so next is citizens' requests and comments for issues not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comment to 5 minutes, please.
David Lynch. High Springs Brewing. I urge the commissioners to think about those 3 words. Do the commissioners want the name of their city associated with a product that kills 7,000 people each day? Moving on to another subject, I urge the commissioners to think about all the growth and development that's taking place. It seems that we are careening uncontrollably towards the metropolis that no one wants.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, new City Manager, Mr. Jeremy. My name is Lanier Smith. I'm here representing the High Springs Lions Club. And I come to these meetings from time to time, and usually not as engaged as I should be, but I'm a very busy man. And I need for Mr. Jeremy to know that the High Springs Lions Club was established in 1947. Our building has been here since 1963, and we do an awful lot of work to help this city. We volunteer for just about anything that comes around that's community related to give us a community spirit. I have been the event coordinator for the High Springs Lions Club for the past 15 years, and it never crossed my mind that things would get as kind of crazy as they are right now. I met with you on June 6th. Today is the 8th of August, so 2 months has gone by. But I was told that we can no longer have any activities on the railroad property, that the railroad had told the city that we could no longer use the property. After 4 trips to your office, I finally, and taking a half a day off work, I finally got an appointment with you. And I finally got the name of the contact who supposedly sent this information to you. His name is Luis Vasquez, who told me he didn't have a clue what I was talking about and sent me to, that person is in charge of leasing and sale of railroad property. He said, you need to get a non-environmental permit for your function, and he sent me to the proper person to handle that, which I did, and they were very happy and pleased to help me. Now, you told me on that day that the city, I went because for 15 years I've been coming to the city manager, I've met every one of them, and, you know, and I don't want to be confrontational at all or get off on the wrong foot, but I have a permit in my hand from the city, from the railroad. I can get any permit for any activity that we want to have on that property down there. And so therefore, if this can't be resolved tonight, I would like to be put on the agenda for the next commission meeting so we can discuss. I have a car show planned for October 26th. It's a community event. It requires not one dime or one physical monetary effort from the city. It brings a lot of people to town. It's sponsored by the shop owners downtown, and we have a pretty good program. It also, all the proceeds for this benefit the Florida Diabetes Camp for young diabetics. All right, so that's issue number 1. There's a lot of planning that goes into this stuff, you know. I would urge you to pay attention to the people that volunteer in this community that aren't paid anything, no salaries at all, that are effective in bringing harmony and good spirit to the city. Backing up to the budget meeting, there was no time for comments, and y'all had plenty on your plate. That's great. But I want to say that you know, we'd already heard about the Christmas tree and the shop owners and Lions Club or whatever. We're here to help the city, not to be a burden to the city. So we all have already figured out what to do about a tree. And Mr. Tristan, I love you, buddy. If you want to plant one out there, we'll help you do that too. All right? But it is my intention not only for the Lions Club, but that piece of railroad property down there is historic. It's been part of our community. The railroad used to participate on that property for our pioneer days. And I don't know where you're going to put the kids. The city part, the Civic Center area is too far away from downtown to make our car show effective the way that we want it. There's certainly not enough room around the museum and that side street over there. There's too much work that needs to be done. Those people aren't going to drive those cars in there. And I appreciate us not changing too many things around here without speaking with the people that are actually involved with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Brian Vischer on 166th Ave here in High Springs. Been coming to this area for like 21 years for cave diving. And my wife and I moved here 6 years ago and have really enjoyed the community. I've given the city clerk a handout for y'all. Unfortunately, I didn't make enough copies for everybody. But I wanted to point out that the city of Alachua has kind of painted a target on the back of City of High Springs and the citizens of the City of High Springs. And I say that because they're approving a development that is going to directly impact water in our area. The map that I've given you that has like a line across it is a dye trace that was done in 2005. and they put dye into Mill Creek Sink, which is just behind Sunny's off of 441 and I-75. And what they found is that the dye actually made just a straight beeline for Hornsby, which is just north of us in Camp Kulakwa. So anything that goes into that swallet or sink is going to end up traveling through High Springs. There's wells along the way that also tested positive for this dye. Dye took 5 to 7 days to arrive, took 150 plus days to clear. Okay, so that means that anything that's put in there is going to stay with us for quite some time. I've given you a map on the second page that shows where Mill Creek Sink is, and just to the northeast of that is where the development is currently being planned. 523 homes currently now in a 200-acre parcel, but the majority of that is actually condensed to less than quarter-acre lots. The people that did this study in 2005, spoken with them, and they have a feeling that if there's that the stormwater system is going to be inadequate to protect the water supply from pesticides, herbicides, anything that could be a potential contaminant that is into the water supply through Mill Creek Sink. I've given you the executive summary of that on the second piece of paper, and that shows that this cross-country fracture zone that we're talking about and where it goes and where it ends up. On the third piece of paper is a map that shows, I believe it's a 372-acre parcel that Suwannee River Management Water District is planning on putting together for a recharge basin for well field. This particular parcel is right in line with that cross-county fracture. So water that's coming from Mill Creek Sink is going to end up there. You think, well, Mill Creek Sink, what, it's just this hole in the ground, but it's not. It's an underground river. It continues on up under Lowe's. If you can believe that. So everything's connected, right? And it just depends on which way the wind is blowing. In this case, which way the water is flowing, and the water is flowing towards us. On the back side of the handout is the actual latest plot plan of the most recent phase. To the east and northeast of that, in the yellow shaded areas, they've already approved about 400 homes in that section, and that will all drain down towards Mill Creek. In the lower section, in the darker yellow, and below that to the south is a commercial area, 40 acres, and that is directly over the cave system. So anything that's in the parking lot is going to end up in the cave system, which is going to end up in the water system, which is going to end up impacting us. So I wanted you all to be aware of this in case you weren't, and I encourage the commission to have staff take some action and have the voices heard and concerns about the impacts on. Thank you.
Mr. Fisher, could I ask you to give your contact information to our city clerk?
Oh, you betcha.
I'd like to follow up with you.
I would as well, please. Can you get that to all of us? I have some questions.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. Rick Testa here in High Springs. Over the years, if any of you had been here over the years, you'd remember, Commissioner Williams might, but whenever I can get up and offer a solution to a problem, you might not agree with what I'm saying, the problem, it could be handled a lot of different ways, but it's always a solution, maybe just my opinion, so I'm not going to try to convince you all. I'm just going to suggest what you have identified as the problem and offer you a solution. See how it goes. I listened to all the budget hearings and watched a couple of them, came here for a couple of them, and then tonight I missed the budget hearing. But what stuck in my head was, again, just my opinion, and maybe other people in the community agree with this, but the sewer system. Seems to be a huge problem for you all, for the new city manager, all you new commissioners. Mr. Williams has been dealing with this for forever. And I was here in these chambers when the commission at the time decided it was a good idea. And I agreed with them 30 years ago, 25 years ago. It is a good idea. The sewer system is better science than septic tanks. I would imagine all of you agree with that by now. The problem with the science of septic tanks is that they're not maintained properly. There really isn't anything wrong with a septic tank, even around the aquifer, if it's maintained, inspected, treated properly, and all that stuff. But the sewer system is a better solution to the problem. But the sewer system has bankrupted the city. It's been underwater since that sewer system was built. I hope all of you are, again, would at least agree with that. At one time, it was around $13 million. I don't know where we are today with what you owe, what we are paying for now because of the sewer system. And over the meet that you all have had over the budget, the subjects come up over and over. So I'm not bringing up anything earth-shaking. But here's what I think is earth-shaking. It's called a moratorium, and between the city manager and you commissioners, you can do this if you choose to. It isn't about the legal obstacles. It's about the courage, the determination of the city manager and the commissioners to do something to help us all in that particular regard, the sewer system. What you could do is create a moratorium. I know it's going to be difficult and controversial. Stop using the sewer system from this point on for a period of time. Bridlewood's already tied into it, and the people that have their systems already tied in, keep using it. You've already done a wonderful thing, the commissioners and the city managers over the years. They put the system in. It's been working for 25 years, helping the aquifer and the water, and like the gentleman just mentioned. It's a better system for the Floridan aquifer. It's costing the city a fortune, and the meetings that you all have had exemplified that point. It's going to cost more and more and more and more money to patch up the sinkholes and to build another tank, and that's my solution to the problem. Have a moratorium. Use the city system, but have builders from now until the end of the moratorium period come into High Springs and want to build here. Great, come on down, build here. Put septic tanks in. And the city could create or impose, if you want to say, a maintenance schedule on the homeowners or the builders or whoever. It's possible, it's conceivable, and I'd like for you all to think about that. Use the system the way it's designed and continue to use it up to capacity with the second tank that's put in it. Don't plan on putting a third tank in. Don't let builders come in and put 70-foot lot lines up and build up 2,000 houses. Have them put in houses on 2 acres. And I live on 5 acres. We're allowed to have a septic tank, and I have my septic tank checked at least once a year, sometimes twice a year on my own volition, not because it's imposed on me, but I want to be responsible for the aquifer. And my system checks out, nothing's getting out of my system. Nothing's getting in, into the soil that's problematic. And all septic tanks would do that if they were maintained properly. Consider the possibility of a moratorium in the future. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. I wanted to make a comment additionally about the meeting that you just had regarding our budget. First, I'd like to give everybody a compliment again at the transparency, just the cooperation that everybody's showing with this. I understand that you're meeting with all of the department heads and stuff, and it's really, really a team effort. I think people are aware that it's the unchecked spending under the previous city manager. Our obscene spending plus has gone into the position that we're in here now. I would like to suggest again that we revisit a big ticket item with our legal fees. It was mentioned before. But it was decided that we wait until we see what the budget looked like later on. After listening to talks such as tonight about cuts that are having such an impact on our community, I'd like to bring that back up again. The legal fees is a real big ticket item. We talked about maybe putting some feelers out for competitive pricing and all of that. I'd just like to maybe have you reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to commissioners, do you have any response to any of that?
I did.
Okay, yes, sir.
About the car show, I was under the impression we were not allowed to use CSX property. And you have a permit now? Absolutely. So we can have it there?
So your permit is with CSX, the property owner?
Yeah, done. Well, yeah. No, that's great. We were told kind of differently, and it was not, it wasn't all by, but it was never against, I hope y'all realize it was never, it was just, the CXS kind of came down a little heavy.
So, let me clear the air on that. I'm in support of the car show. I hope it happens. And the Christmas tree lighting, if you have a permit and you want, the city's used to doing it, I have an email, and I give it to all the commissioners, where it point blank in writing says, no recreational activities allowed on CXX property. That's what we have to go off of. We don't own the property, and as city manager, I do not have the authority to allow anything to happen on CXX property when they say we can't do it. However, Mr. Smith, is if you were able to get a hold of somebody higher up in CXX and they gave you a permit, I am happy to walk you through that permit process, and I don't think you're gonna have any problems with the city giving you a permit. I've heard about it today. This is the first I've heard you got a permit from CXX. Hey, you did something I was unable to do. Hats off to you. I hope you have your car show, and if you have it for the Christmas tree lighting, that changes a lot of what we discussed today. And you come in with the permit process, I don't think you'll have a problem with the city.
But yes, we're very fortunate Don has a really good contact there, because, he knows about trains.
Can you pull the, yeah.
So anyway, that's, I think it was a misunderstanding in the wrong department for one thing. And so we had to get to the right department. So we're three out, and I was planning on telling you about it later on, but I have my paperwork and everything as well.
Fantastic.
Great.
Great news.
Thank you.
Oh, thank y'all.
Any other comments, gentlemen?
I just had a question about Saddle Ridge. Isn't Saddle Ridge going to be on septic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
Well and septic. Isn't that right, Alan? Saddle Ridge? Well, it's like 2 to 5 acre lots.
Lots.
Yeah, well and septic. Yes, sir. Any other comments, gentlemen?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. Discuss, consider, and act on Resolution 2024-K. Do you want to read this, Mr. Walker?
Happy to do so, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this is Resolution 2024-K, a resolution of the City of High Springs dedicating and improving the naming of the building located at the Old Douglas School site and Catherine L. Taylor Park in the City of High Springs, Florida, as the Douglas Community Center in honor of the Old Douglas School. Providing an effective date, the appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2024-K upon its reading by title only.
Gentlemen, any comments, questions? Any comments from the audience? All right, gentlemen.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-K.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024-K as read. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mayor White,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grunder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloodsworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Outstanding.
And that's
That's great.
Saturday at
Saturday at 11 a.m.
Yes.
is the
11
grand
a.m.
opening
Come
of
on
the
out.
new.
It is a beautiful building now. They've done good work in there.
All right, next on the agenda, discuss, consider, and act on Resolution 2024-N. Do you want to read this one, sir?
Yes, ma'am. This is resolution of the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, amending and approving to the traffic signal maintenance and compensation agreement between the City of High Springs and the Florida Department of Transportation, authorizing the city manager to execute the amendment to the agreement, providing the City of High Springs accepts the responsibilities as outlined in attached amendment agreement, providing for conflicts, providing for servability, providing for an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2024-N as read by title only.
Gentlemen, any questions? Mr. Marshall, you good with what we have here? Any questions from the audience? All right, gentlemen, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-N.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Madam City Clerk?
Vice Mayor Grunder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bloodsworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Whites.
Yes. All right. Next on the agenda, item number 3. Discuss, consider, and act on Resolution 2024-O. Mr.
Madam Mayor,
Walker?
This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of High Springs setting user fees for the Douglas Community Center and adopting an application form, setting new rules and regulations for its use, including a hold harmless agreement, and adopting a waiver of fees application form for the use of the Douglas Community Center, providing for conflicts and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2024-O upon its reading by title only.
All right, gentlemen, any questions? I had one question that I asked the city manager, maybe Chief Peters can answer it, or Mr. Alligat, I'm not sure. The capacity for the Douglas Center is so much less than the Civic Center, but the square footage is almost the same.
That was actually set by Alachua County Fire
Okay,
Rescue.
okay.
I can look at that and I can actually increase, I've already looked at that, I went out there and looked at it. I can increase the capacity to probably around 98. Because I can go what a 10 square foot per person number, which would give them a lot more space. The way I look at it, the reason why it was set at that is because once you put tables and chairs in there, you limit the amount of space that you have. And with the knowledge that we're not going to have tables and chairs in there all the time, with it being a wide open building, we can go with a capacity of 98. So I can increase that, and I actually was going to try to increase that before we came today, but I didn't have an opportunity to do that.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm willing to do that as the authority having jurisdiction. And I've spoken with Chief Adler and Chip also to see if that would be possible. So.
Okay,
I was wondering the same thing.
yeah,
I'm wondering the same thing.
okay. Any other questions, gentlemen?
We like these fees. We think they're going to recoup what we need and.
I'll let you know my thought process on it.
Okay.
So even though the square footage of the Civic Center is roughly the same as the Douglas Community Center is with the capacity, what I didn't want to happen is we just spent all this time and effort into remodeling this building, and then people say, I'll rent the Civic Center because of the capacity of it, and then the Douglas Community Center does not get used. I put it at a reduced rate of, so this will be $100, whereas the Civic Center is $150 because of the capacity is allowed. I would like to encourage people to use the Douglas Community Center. I don't want all this effort and money and stuff being spent on it, and then it sits there unused. So I put aside the square footage, and I looked at it with the capacity and what's going to incentivize people to use it.
Okay.
I'm with it.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
One other thing, the other reason for the capacity being lower at the Douglas Center than the community center, the community center is a much more wide open space, where the Douglas Center has a kitchen in there and 2 restrooms, and then you can't really count that square footage in the amount of square footage you use for occupancy capacity.
Okay.
If you did, you'd only have one would be allowed in the kitchen area. So that's why it's a little lower, because there's some space in there that I can't use in there for calculation for occupancy load.
Okay.
Okay, you answer my question, because I just can't see it. That place is big as the Civic Center. There's no
Doesn't feel as
way.
big, yeah.
Don't
yeah,
feel it. It's not
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
there.
beautiful, it's prettier.
It's
Right,
not
right,
there.
right,
You know,
right.
and like you said, then you got that hall with the kitchen, and then you got the bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, because you can't put tables and stuff back there in the hallway, so
Right,
it's not
right,
there.
right.
If you get 75 people in there,
Be tight,
you're gonna
Basically,
have no elbow room.
yeah.
Basically, everything from the kitchen forward is what we can actually
Yeah.
physically
Okay.
use for occupancy load.
Yes.
That small space where the kitchen is to the wall,
Mm-hmm.
you really can't even count that, because that's considered a waiting area. So you really can't do that.
Okay.
So that's why the occupancy load is at what it is. And I'm willing to increase the occupancy load a little bit as authority having jurisdiction to make it more feasible to have events and things there, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions or comments from the audience?
If you want
Yes, sir.
to, oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Sue Weller. I just have a couple of questions. When I'm looking at the pricing sheet, the facility rental price sheet, it has the price, the rental price for other facilities, and my question is, have those prices been increased? There's nothing here to compare if it has been what the previous price was.
They have not for a
So
while.
we have set up a committee that will start meeting next week, and they're gonna review every piece of property that we rent out and come up with a new reasonable fee schedule to, look at what that cost will be.
So other than the Douglas Center, the prices that are on here are the current prices?
Everything on there is the current
Okay.
prices. The reason we brought Douglas Center up tonight is because we didn't have anything set, and we're doing a
Right.
grand opening, and we had to set something for people to be able to use it. So, but every fee is gonna be looked at over next coming weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? All right, gentlemen?
Madam Mayor, if you would like to incorporate into the motion to allow the chief to change the capacity in his discretion for the Douglas Center, you can do that.
Okay.
I'll make that motion that we approve resolution 2024-0 with the caveat that the chief update the capacity.
Real quick, before you vote on that, I want to double check with the chief, because since you made that caveat about it, we can raise the capacity, and that will happen.
Yeah, as the authority having jurisdiction, I have the ability to do that.
Okay.
Usually you use the numbers of 15 square foot per person or 7 square feet per person. I'm gonna go I'm gonna be able to go middle road at 10 square foot per person, because the usable space, the space we're using to determine the occupancy on that is 984 square feet.
984.
That's what's usable as occupancy.
Okay.
So that's why I'm going at 10 square foot per person. It gives you 998 people that can be in there.
Okay.
So yes.
So now, if you raise it to that, okay, somebody rent it, and say, I want to put 100 people in there, and really can't get 100 people in there, then if that's, how it's going to fall back on us? Because you're saying that they can put 98 people in there, but I just can't see you getting it in there. But so, I'm sorry, I got my mic on.
If they get more than 98 people in there, they breach the contract.
No, I'm saying that they do to get the 98 people in. They try to put 98 people in there. What you're saying, if you raise it to that point, they can put that many in there. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yes. I agree with Commissioner
I can't-
Williams. I don't think you should raise it that much.
I can't see it. I
It's
just,
only a little block area where they're gonna sit at. I don't think that's a good thing. Cause you're gonna have people that try it. Like
they're going to try it. And it's, that'll be tight. I'm just,
Technically, we could go with 7 square foot if everybody was standing. If there was no tables or chairs in the picture, which I didn't see any tables and chairs when I was there. Obviously, there will be
Yes.
eventually, right? But if you went with 7 square foot, which is a concentrated use for that facility, you're talking 140 people. I don't see that happening.
No way possible.
No way. Even standing, I don't see that happening. But when you look at round tables, you can fit, what, 8 people, 9 people at a round table sometimes? That's 10 tables. Feasibly, you could do that and still be able to move. The thing about it is they can't be fixed. None of those tables can be fixed to the floor or the chairs either. They have to be movable. In case something happens, they can move the chairs and tables out of the way and get out. That's one of the caveats to that also. So I'll do whatever capacity you guys, y'all want me to do. I'm just trying to accommodate anybody that might use that facility.
Yeah.
And we can require them to set give us a floor plan of how they plan on setting up the floor before they rent the building. And then it'd have to be approved through us. And then if I see that it's gonna be too tight, then I won't approve
Let's
it.
not make it that difficult for people to use it.
Yeah,
Can we
it's-
just meet in the middle and go 75 and make that a safe, because if something was to happen in that kitchen, you're gonna have a mass exodus rolling out of there.
Right.
See, that's my main
Easy-
concern.
Yeah, we can do 75. That'd be fine.
If you try to put 90 people in there and something happened, they try to get out of those 2 doors,
Right now, it's set at 67.
yeah.
67, yeah. 75 is what? 8 more people? 9 more people? Yeah. I do police math. I'm even though I'm a fireman. So,
That's fair.
yeah. 75 is acceptable, or
Yeah. Even with the Civic Center, I'm trying to think, have we ever got 150 people in the Civic Center? I think when I had my wedding reception in there, it was, and we packed it in there, and I was afraid that night. Something had happened, all them people trying to get out that place, we had places on the stage, we had people all on the floor. It was too tight, and I think we had 100 people, 125 at the most, and that was too tight. So,
Yeah, when I do the back to school event, it's like arm to arm.
yeah, yeah.
And that's standing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't mind putting that, but I just don't want to put it to the point where say, okay, somebody ran and said, I can get 98 people in this place. I'm gonna put 98 people in this place. In spite of, I'm gonna put 98 people in here, and that's meaning gonna be all up and down that aisle, and it's gonna be, I'm thinking about safety wise, that's all. That's what I'm looking for, a safety standpoint. And in most cases, if you do have something in there, I'm gonna say 75 people at the most. You know, because most people know it's not the Civic Center. They know they ain't gonna be able to do the same thing they do at the Civic Center. Since it's a community center. I just want to try and stay within safety-wise. And Mr. Turner, I just want to make sure we don't put something that's going to cost us in the long run, a lawsuit or something I try to get out and get hurt.
sounds reasonable to me.
So do we want to modify the motion then?
I think the motion leaves it up to him to make the capacity, so.
Okay,
If
okay.
we tell him 75, and he says he'll make it 75, I think the motion covers all that.
Okay. Do I have a second for that motion then?
No, second.
Any more discussion, any more comments?
One more thing, Alex.
Yes,
But
sir.
she's not here though, is she? And I like the way she reduced the High Spring residents, the military, and the first responders to 20%. I like that.
Very nice.
We shouldn't have never, be quiet about it. Yeah, that was a bit too much.
All right. Did you have a second?
Yes.
You seconded, okay. It's been properly moved and seconded. We are ready for roll call, please, ma'am.
Commissioner Bloodsworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor White?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grunder?
Yep.
All right. Resolution 2024-0 passes 5-0. Item number 4. Discuss, consider, and act on the mold issue at the High Springs Fire Department.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this is not going to be an easy conversation for me, obviously. We discovered some staining in the ceiling tiles, in the bedroom area, bunk room area. We investigated, we thought maybe we had a roof leak or something like that, even though the roof is fairly new. So upon our investigation, we got up in the ceiling and noticed that there was a tremendous amount of condensation on the AC ductwork, which was causing this staining in the tiles. We saw things that looked like they could possibly be mold. So at my direction, I had Heritage come in and look at that. He took some numbers as far as humidity. The humidity levels in the building, in the bunk room, in the day room area, and the kitchen were well above 80%. Normal house and normal building humidity levels should be around 50 to 60%. They should not be 80, sometimes 85%. So the humidity levels were really high. So we had to investigate why these humidity levels were so high. And then we also took samples of the areas that we thought there might be mold. When those samples came back, they came back, yes, they were mold. The gentleman from Heritage decided that this was above him, that we really needed to probably have a mechanical contractor come in and look at the AC system as a whole and see what was causing this to happen, because there was no air exchange in the upstairs in the attic area between the ceiling tiles and the roof. And that area was considerably warmer than the area inside the station itself. So as we went through and looked at that with the mechanical contractor came in, he said that in a nutshell, the entire system was probably installed improperly back when it was installed, 10 years ago. So this is not a brand new issue. There's been things like this building. It's something that I just noticed and I just had to take action on because I really can't, in good faith, and I can't sleep good at night knowing that my men and women are over there sleeping in a moldy building. So I had to make sure that we took some action to try to get this remediated. The unfortunate part is when the mold numbers came back, there's definitely widespread mold. Fortunately, in the bedroom and in the bunk room, or the bunk room in the living quarters, it's not really the methyl ethyl bad mold, but it is still mold and it still needs to be remediated, it still needs to be removed. However, upon investigation of the women's restroom, there was mold on the shower in there and on the ceiling of the shower. When we investigated that, come to find out that approximately a year ago, we lost a exhaust fan in the women's restroom. Don't know who was charged with trying to get that fixed or get it done. That was a prior administration, that's before me, but it was never addressed. And that mold is actually black mold, which is the methyl ethyl bad mold. So we've had to completely block off our women's restroom, so we're down to one restroom. We're not allowed to use that at all. That mold remediation is probably going to be a little bit more extensive. But what you have in front of you on your handout is the reports from all the different entities we had come in and do this. The mechanical engineer suggests that we completely redo the entire AC system for the bedroom, the living quarters, the kitchen. He also suggests that we put more fans in the restrooms and actually have them exhaust to the outside. Currently, they don't exhaust to the outside, they exhaust to the attic space. That's completely not correct. That shouldn't be that way. And then the mold remediation has to occur. So what I gave you is a couple of quotes there. The AC system redo, we're looking at approximately $78,000. And then we're looking at $6,452 to remediate the mold. And that doesn't even include the replacement of anything that they remove to remediate the mold. We have walls in the bedroom that are soft, where the drywall has absorbed so much fluid that they're now soft. So those will have to be removed. Once they remediate everything, we'll have to have a construction company or someone come in and replace all of the drywall and replace probably the women's shower, because that's where the black mold is. So what you have in front of you is a total of $190,052. That doesn't include the reconstruction costs. It's unfortunately, it's something that when I found out about it, I couldn't sit on it. I could not do something to get that fixed. Because like I said, I couldn't sleep at night knowing that if what's going on there could cause a long-term illness for one of our firefighters. And in the long run, that's going to cost a lot more money. So, I had to make that decision, start the process to see where we were at, to make sure that it really was mold. That's kind of why we started the process. So that's the conversation. Any questions?
Did we have a warranty on the AC? Because you said it was 10 years old. We don't?
Not that we know of.
Okay.
And honestly, I think Alan can speak to this. I don't know that a final inspection was ever done on any of that. We know that the AC unit that was put in last year, because they replaced the air handler last year, which was also installed improperly, they never called for a final inspection. I was the one that had to call and ask them to set up a final inspection, and then they never did really produce the documents they needed to do a final inspection. But at the advice of the mechanical engineer, we just decided that system's going to have to come out anyway.
So that permit's still open?
What's that?
That permit is still open?
Yeah, the department's still open.
So-
The guys, they sleep in.
No, the permit application for that work.
Permit's still open? Yes, it is.
So if that permit has not been closed out and we have found the work to be deficient, how is it that we can't come back and have that fixed?
That's a good
They
question.
never closed out their permit.
City attorney, a question.
Alan?
I'm not trying to ask you a difficult question. I see
It's
your face.
difficult, Madam
I'm
Mayor.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, I did go over and look at it, and they did not have their installation and guidelines and for that unit. And I just canceled the inspection instead of failing them. But I've seen at least 3 to 4 things that would not pass. And that's why I had requested the installation guideline for that unit, because it's also a gas furnace. So it heats with gas, it's not all electric. So they were doing a change out from an existing unit that was put there 10 years ago. They replaced it with what was there. It's assumption, but what was put there 10 years ago probably wasn't the right equipment to do what needed to be done.
So the question still stands, if they didn't close out the permit, are they not still responsible for doing the work correctly?
Yes, ma'am, they are, but that will, if they do the work correctly, that will not fix the issue that the department.
Understood, understood. But in terms of the cost of replacing the system, do we need to eat that cost if it was not installed properly under an open permit?
Well, the bad install wasn't necessarily done a year ago. It was done 10 years ago. What
Okay.
they did a year ago was basically replace one unit for another. They replaced the same unit for what was in there. It was never installed properly from what we assumed. It was never done properly 10 years ago when they did the remodel.
So if it
So
wasn't.
we'd have to go back 10 years and figure out who installed that to begin with.
But that 10-year-old system was replaced a year ago. Would it not be incumbent upon the HVAC contractor to identify proper installation? Would it not be their job to say, this is not right?
I do believe it's their job to make it not right. I've had conversations with other building officials about this. Because the system appears to not be installed correctly at the initial build, how can I make them bring the whole building up to the returns not being where they need to be, or the right airflow, or no vents in the attic? that should be vented outside.
Mhm.
They're not responsible for all that, so my solution was to make them responsible for everything inside of that room
Mhm.
where the AC's at. And I don't have my code. I wrote a bunch of notes looking at it, but there's makeup air that needs to be fixed. The drain was leaning the wrong way, which it was backflowing into the pan. There is a old hot water heater in there that's disassembled. It needs to be took out. There's not enough clearance between the back wall and the unit. I haven't personally took the unit apart to look and see if the heating strips are far enough away from the condenser so there's a lot to it. But they did change system for system, though. It was a 5-ton unit. They put a 5-ton unit back in.
And that's really not my question. I mean, if that's still adequate capacity to do the job, it is. But if it's not installed, if it wasn't installed correctly 10 years ago, why didn't they tell us that a year ago when they replaced it? You know? And if there's no final inspection, a lot of this would have been caught with a final inspection. Potentially, yes?
Potentially, but I believe the damage that Mr. Joe's talking about is not happened in a year's time.
Agreed. Yeah, understood. Understood.
The system doesn't appear to be enough or engineered correctly for what
Mr. Walker, do you have any,
Yeah.
any input in terms of the legality of the liability for the most recent contractor?
Well, Madam Mayor, I have to believe that the original design to the building had specifications that called for vents to be added, to vent out of the fans to vent out of the ceiling and out of the roof and not the ceiling into the attic space. So the design specs, I would have to believe, were adequate. And if the original HVAC contractor did things inappropriately, perhaps we could look at that. And my understanding of the law is that if there are latent defects that are not discovered until recently, then we may still have an ability to look at responsibility where it properly lies with the original installation. So I would be happy to look at that and see if we could get some remedy to the original installation, which sounds like it's problematic for some reason, and I don't know where the problem lies, but one would think that the original specifications for the design and construction of the building were appropriate, and for some reason it never was done adequately.
Yeah. Yeah, the fresh air makeup that was supposed to be in the attic space is not there.
Mhm.
There's actually a hole, and it's just plugged. There's nothing in it. So that had to happen in the original install.
Did we know if there was a final inspection after the original?
I will
That was
pull-
before.
I will pull the file and try to find the plans. I found the plans because Mr. John from
Mhm.
Heritage wanted to look at those when he was doing his evaluation. He hasn't told me what he found. I don't know if Joe can,
He didn't share
Yeah.
a lot with me. He just shared that things that are supposed to be in place are not there, and they never were there. And that's why it got to be above his head. That's why we had a mechanical engineer to come in and look at the entire system to see where the deficiencies are, what needs to be done to fix this the proper way, so that we never have this problem again. So that's why the mechanical engineer came in and did his assessment of it. And when he looked at that, he mentioned to us that the entire system that's in that closet that hasn't been finally inspected is going to would need to come out. And his solution would be to put a unit on the roof and do it like a true commercial structure. It seems to me, from what I understand and I don't know a whole lot about HVAC. I can put the wet stuff on the red stuff. I don't know a whole lot about HVAC, right? But from what I can see, it seems like it was a beefed up residential system that was put into a commercial building. And it was never intended for that point. If you go in our bunk room when the AC's on, we don't even have very little air flowing at the very far end of the far end of the room, because the ductwork goes from a larger size to a much smaller size, and it just doesn't flow all the way to the back. And that's because the ductwork was installed improperly.
Is it flex duct or is it form board that's up there?
Madam Mayor, I've not evaluated that.
Okay, okay.
I'm not sure.
I say we pull the permit if
I
we
will
can,
pull the
please.
permit from when it was built new and get with the city.
Yeah, and then,
Can we get our people out of there? Can we get portable living quarters to get people out of there? They do
We've-
not need to be in there.
We've got that taken care of, because the area that they usually sleep in, they're not sleeping in there now. What they're doing is, we have a lieutenant's office and we have my office. So they sleep in my office and in the lieutenant's office overnight, and then they go and do their thing. They stay out of the room, the bunk room, for the most part. So we've isolated them, and the remediation expert said it was okay for them to be there, because in those two rooms, because they're not that, it's not the kind of mold that's going to hurt them. It's mold, obviously, and if they have an allergy to it, it's always going to make a difference. But they don't sleep in those rooms now. They sleep in our front office, which has an AC unit that's adequately installed and is fine. So that's where they've been sleeping. I come in the morning, I got to move a bed out of my where my chairs are, but that's okay. I'd rather they be there than be in the
Yeah,
room
but
that's
Ken,
not.
that's
safe.
really not adequate sleeping quarters.
True. It's not.
Temporary.
I mean,
It's not. I mean, in the lieutenant's office, there are 2 actual beds, and then they're sleeping on mattresses on the other 2 people are sleeping on mattresses. The other 3.
Okay.
So, it's not ideal. It's not an ideal situation.
yeah, but now we're looking at a long time period to getting this mess cleaned up. We need to think about our employees and get them in a better living quarter situation. I know they got portables for such as this kind of a situation. We got to look into this. I don't like this. I don't like it at all. I don't think it's right. I don't think we should have our people come here and have to stay as a fireman baby. My dad went to work, stayed there. They need to have adequate sleeping quarters and showers, adequate, clean showers.
I agree.
I mean, you can't ask a man to leave his home and come here, a city building, and we can't provide adequate place for them to sleep
Agree
and
with you.
take a shower. Something, we need to do something about this.
the men's room is okay?
The men's room is
fine.
okay. It's not venting out to the outside either, but there's no mold in the men's restroom. There's rust on the air ducts, because every time it vents out of the shower, it just goes over and condensates onto the air duct, and there's rust on them because they're metal grates. But there is no active mold in the men's restroom. The problem is we have 2 females in our fire department. So when they need to use the restroom and they need to take a shower or anything like that, we have to put a sign on the door to make sure nobody goes in there. So it is rather inconvenient. And the bunk room that they would sleep in is a little warm, because we can't turn the AC down past 75, or the humidity goes up so high again, we just have mold again. We're actually increasing the mold again if we drop the AC below 75. So in this temperatures, it gets to be a little taxing for them.
What's our time frame? If
Good
you do
question.
something tonight.
6 months? We don't really know. We don't really have a definitive time frame.
I think I agree with Commissioner Bloodsworth. If this is going to stretch out farther than a couple months, we might need to look at putting something out there something that's more suitable for somebody to maintain a living quality in for a
Let
while.
Kevin talk, because he's been here longer than I have, and he knows a little bit more about the history of it.
So the good news is the gentleman that we have brought in to be the mechanical engineer, Mr. Kevin Spellacy, this is the 12th fire station that he has worked on. This is not uncommon for fire stations. So he has a lot of experience handling this. That's the good news. The other good news is that we have a phenomenal group of guys over there that are willing to come in 24/7, 365 and do what needs to be done. But Commissioner Bloodsworth is right that we need to act, we need to do it now. Can't provide a timetable because we needed direction from the commission to find the money. And no, we don't know exactly what that is, because until a mold remediation company comes in and starts peeling back the drywall and the ceiling and everything else, we don't know how much they're going to be removing. So it's hard to give that exact estimate. There are dehumidifiers that are running in that building, that have been running in that building for the last 5 weeks. So it's helping keep the humidity under control, which is good. But yes, we do not have access to the women's bathroom. And if you recall, this was an addition in 2012, and it was a renovation of the existing building. So the existing building that was renovated was built in the mid-'60s. So there was a lot of extra work that needed to be done. So that's why for the most part, with the exception of the women's bathroom and the men's bathroom for now, the lobby area is okay because that's a brand-new build. But they basically went in and they took it's a concrete building. It's a brick building with concrete block walls that they then put up drywall and everything else as part of the renovation, and that's where he found out that the ductwork was not the right size. So again, to kind of help get us by and manage that humidity level, we got to run it at 75 degrees in there, which is really hard to do when those doors are open and closed all the time, and you have 7 people in there during the business day and then 5, after hours, to keep that humidity under control. And these are very, very large dehumidifiers that are running. It sounds like a jet engine in there, 24/7.
With that being said, that noise, these people need to rest. I understand, I just don't like it. I want our people out of there somehow, some way. I don't like it.
I saw the report here by the mold assessor. And they put plates out, they did spore counts, they did everything on the plates. So everything was certified by a CIH. I didn't see anything in here from an industrial hygienist.
Yeah, it was,
Maybe I'm just missing it. I saw the Spellacy, I saw the mold specialist, and I saw the summary of the air quality report. It may just not be in here, I'm guessing.
He sent
It could
he
be.
did
sent
send
it-
it off for testing. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
We had another sample that was taken by Heritage before.
Okay.
That was done by another firm. I don't know if we included it in this packet or not, but we do have their tests
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
And the mechanical engineer has seen all the tests. He's aware of the remediation specialist and the company, the gentleman to write the protocol, and also for dryers to do the remediation.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Sanair that did the initial identification
Okay.
of it.
And the kitchen area and dining area is not affected at all?
the kitchen area, it's not affected by the mold, but it is affected by the AC ducts, because there's only one register in the kitchen, and no matter what you do in the kitchen, it doesn't get below like 70 degrees. or
What's the
75
square foot?
degrees.
That kitchen's big.
Yeah.
And
it's
there's
big.
one register?
There's one register in there. There's
I
actually
have two in mine.
There's actually two coming out of the closet where this air handler is, but they don't push any air out. They're kind of just there. So when they do the redo, it'll be put in properly to where we can it'll be actually a more efficient building too, because we shouldn't have to turn the AC down below like 74. It could be, because we're going to have full airflow throughout the whole house,
Right.
throughout the whole building.
Right.
So.
Where's the money coming from? What do you want to do?
What first question is, how much would something like this cost? All you talking about doing? That's
$200,000.
more.
Yeah.
Three.
Yeah.
I'm saying at least
Yeah.
250. If you're trying to do the remodeling and got to redo the walls and all of that,
Well,
that's
the only thing we want to remodel is put the drywall back where they took it, and then we'll paint the walls. I don't care about that, you know. And if we can find people that in the department that are willing to hang drywall, we'll hang drywall too. If we can save money that way.
Now this is
Firefighters are pretty handy.
This is a little off question, but this wouldn't happen to be the same company that did the AC at the Civic Center, would it? Because the Civic Center AC is now messed up again. Is this the same company?
We're cursed with AC units at the city right now.
Is that Liberty?
What about this AC unit in here? Is this the same company?
Madam Mayor, Liberty's actually come in and repaired this one and the Civic
Civic
Center.
Center,
They're working
yeah,
on the
that's where
Civic
they
Center
were.
to repair other vendors' work. They've been really, really helpful.
Okay.
Or we just keep getting hammered by people not doing their jobs, for bidding on a job here in the city of High Springs, and we're getting hammered because of this crap. This got to stop. We got to figure out a better way of managing this.
So the company that's been out here working on these ACs and installed it, we are no longer working with them. We found a new company.
So what's
And
our
there's
solution?
nothing that we can do to hold them accountable of what they did wrong?
So my question to Mr. Walker would be, can we move forward for the health and safety of these employees? And if we deem that because it was installed wrong, can we come back after them for damages but still move this project forward? Because what I don't want is to get into a legal process that adds
Right.
another year
Right.
of our people sleeping on the floor.
Right.
I've been over there, and you all have a blanket approval to go down and set up a time with chief to walk through there. It is a mess in that fire department. It's unsatisfactory to the standards that we set for our firefighters. It's unsatisfactory. So I guess my question moving forward would be to Mr. Walker is, can we move forward and do what we have to do to get get our people safe, and then go after the company if legally you find something that we can we recoup the cost? Is that something that's possible?
The good thing as to what the city has done thus far, Madam Mayor, is that you've done your inspections, you've got your mold remediation expert that's done his or her inspection, you've got your mechanical contractor in there that's done his inspection as well and said, this is what we need to do. So, yes, exactly right. Don't wait on legal to get this part of it resolved. We don't know at this stage exactly who the original contractor, HVAC contractor may have been. We're going to research that, it sounds like. We're going to try to find information. We don't know if that company's even in existence, apparently, at this point. We have work to do to figure that piece of it out. But the good news of where you're at right now is you have a baseline study that says, wait a minute, we had really improper installation that I have to believe was outside of what the specifications and design originally was for that building, number one. Number two, Chief, if you can, and Alan, if you can go in and take pictures of what the existing situation is before we start doing our rehab, and, so we can prove what that baseline was to the extent that's there, I think that's going to help us as well. So
We have pictures from day one. From when we first noticed it, we took pictures of it.
Good.
We have pictures of the condensation, we have pictures of the mold, we have pictures of all that. We've done all that also.
Good.
So my recommendation, or official recommendation, would be to move forward with the project, well document everything, take pictures of everything, and give them time to find out the information they need to get it to Mr. Walker's office. And if it's determined that we're eligible or in the right to pursue legal action, we will definitely do that. And that's the direction I hope we can go in to recoup some of this. However, the main issue is we gotta move forward. This is unsatisfactory. And to answer Commissioner Grunder's question, it pains me to say this, but this will have to come out of ARPA.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor?
This is that safety net I was talking about earlier today.
We will also look at our property insurance. I know mold is tricky when it comes to insurance, but we will also look into our property insurance and see if there's any way to recoup anything there.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be, whatever the commission sets forward, to estimate what the drywall costs and all that would be, and give chief a do not exceed number. And if it does come back more than that, we will come back and let you know. But to get the project moving, and to get this taken care of, I would like to see the commission do a do not exceed amount coming out of ARPA and commit portion of the ARPA. This is the safety net we were talking about earlier.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm pretty comfortable with like a 250 number, just kind of a contingency to, if we can get it done type thing, but.
And we will do it as cheap. If we can get, Go ahead.
From what I'm calculating with the numbers that we have now, from the mechanical engineer, the mold remediation person, of course, we still have the heritage bill that we have to take care of and things like that. I'm thinking we're probably gonna be real close at 250. We don't know how much it's going to cost to replace the drywall or whatever they take out, because we don't know what they're taking out. All we know is they're going to clean and take care of things. We know we're gonna lose ceiling tiles.
They're gonna strip it to
We'll know we'll
stones.
lose some kind of, some walls in there, but beyond that, we don't know. Some of it's just gonna be scrubbed and cleaned. The non-bad mold will just be scrubbed and cleaned. All the rest of it may require removal of drywall, removal of the shower enclosure, things like that. So we don't know what those numbers are gonna be yet, because we can't have a contractor come in and give us a quote on something we don't know we're gonna have to replace. Does that make sense?
To Commissioner Bloodworth's point, it just kind of occurred to me, what will happen to the staff while they're doing the work? Do we need to get a portable trailer? Because if so, we need to calculate that into it too.
The remediation specialist told us when they remediate, what they'll do is isolate the room that they're remediating, and the guys will be able to stay in the building. And then what they'll do is they'll move to the next room, isolate that room, remediate that, and then move on.
But they're gonna stay in your office this whole time.
Yeah, they're gonna be in the office
No,
sleeping the whole time.
I don't like it. That shouldn't be done. I mean, I appreciate what they're doing, but they should not have to do that.
No, I agree, but they have no problem doing that. I mean, firefighters are they're pretty adaptable. They'll adapt and overcome to most anything.
Well, the one office is set up as it has a bunk room in it
Well, yeah,
already.
the lieutenant's office has a bunk room and a bed. My office has a bunk room and a bed. I put a bed in my office also because when I first started here, that's kind of where I stayed for a little while I was transporting back and forth between here and Tallahassee. So I stayed here during the week. So there is a bed in there. The only other thing is that's only two beds for two people. There's 5 on duty.
Right.
The other 3 sleep on mattresses, and they're comfortable mattresses. They're thick, but it's not ideal for them to sleep on the floor. And it's not ideal for me to come in the morning and have to move mattresses to get to my desk. But it doesn't matter to me. I have no problem with it. I welcome them to do that.
So Commissioner Bloodsworth, what we'll do is I'll go over, I will set up a time with chief, and I will talk to every firefighter on different shifts to gauge what that looks like for them, because it really affects them.
Absolutely.
And if we have to get a portable building, I will bring that to the commission. When that comes time, I'll give a recommendation. If they're okay with it and they're comfortable and it's not affecting their work, and I get an honest opinion from them, we'll keep it because it's a cost savings. But if it's really an issue in a future commission meeting, we'll talk about what that looks like. But for tonight, the discussion is about the mold remediation. So I will look into the sleeping quarters and see what the best recommendation will be. And I will talk with me and Chief will talk to everybody personally.
Okay. If
Now,
they
just
agree
that-
in it, that's fine. They're the ones got to live in it, but I just don't think we need to do that.
Now, just an idea about that, and I know that's getting off of the subject, but is it possible, since Parkinson Rex is not in the museum anymore, just temporarily, that they can use the big room as sleeping quarters?
Can't, because I'm sure Chief, jump in if you can, but the response time from there to the fire department, we have to be, was it 3 minutes?
Yeah, well, our guys have to be out the door in a minute. From the time the alarm goes off till the time they're rolling in the trucks, it's a minute.
I tried.
So, yeah, we'd have to have the trucks parked outside the museum in order to do that, and that would not be ideal, especially in inclement weather. If we were to put them in temporary housing, we would probably move the reserve engine over to the Public Works Department and put the portable building right there. So all they'd have to do is walk out of the portable building and straight into the bays to get to the trucks.
We'll work on the accommodations and the sleeping issues. What we're looking for tonight is the actual project. And we'll work with the firefighters to make sure they're taken care of. Because I agree, unsatisfactory, I don't like it, Chief doesn't like it. But if we go over there, I will find out what we can do. I'll bring that to a future commission meeting if there's a problem.
That's why we immediately opened up our offices as soon as we knew we had this problem. Before we even knew if it was bad mold or not, we moved people out of that environment and put them in our areas, so.
Can I recommend something?
Please.
I'm a state licensed assessor and remediator, so I see this like all the time. And we're in Florida right now, so, you know, it's high humidity, but I know y'all are trying to save money, and it's gonna be a while before y'all get AC up and running, so I think that's your big cost item. And I think your health is primarily the most important thing for the firefighters and the people spending the night over there. So what I would recommend, and my business is, a quarter mile down the road, Pinnacle Water Damage Restoration and Mold Remediation. So I got OSHA certifications, EPA certifications, mold assessor. So I take the samples. I've never failed a post sample, and I knock on wood because the way they take the samples, air samples and then surface samples, it's hard to be really consistent on that. But the samples are funny, but you can maintain healthy living quarters by doing a remediation now, which is not the high cost deal, remediating those quarters and keeping the humidity right. As far as sleeping, you're concerned about the noise. We have dehumidifiers that move 60 gallons of water out of the air that make hardly any noise. Now, air movers make a little bit of noise, but they even have like minimal sound air movers too. So my thing would be, if it's me spending the money, I'm gonna do a partial remediation in there now. Get it done, get anything that's affected drywall out. Drywall's easy, it's cost effective to go ahead and remove, hang, texture, paint drywall, but get that stuff out, maintain humidity until you get air conditioning in. So you're talking, I haven't seen the project, but you're talking low thousands versus now you're not having people sleep in your, chief's quarters. You got normal sleeping areas. The bathrooms are fully restored. And as long as the humidity stay in, pretty, low 40s, with the door swinging open, those big dehumidifiers can handle the door swinging open, the Florida humidity, and you're going to be good to go. You take a pre-test, remediate, take your post-test. Post-test comes back, no bad mold. You're going to always have mold like he's talking about that doesn't cause health concerns. He's talking about like penicillin and Stachybotrys. Those are the two bad molds. You get rid of those, you're green light, everybody's healthy, and now, keep the humidity right until you get your new system, which seems like the old system, the condensation and probably insulation's causing a lot of moisture problem. For what it's worth.
Thank you, sir.
And that's the plan, is to do the remediation now, then worry about the system after that. We were kind of hoping to do it all at the same time, but it's probably not going to be feasible to do that. But with the dehumidifiers we have in there now, we've got numbers in the 50s and 60s throughout the entire structure, which is great. It's keeping the humidity down, which is keeping any additional mold growth from happening. So, we would move forward with the remediation plan first, and I think the quote we got from them was like $6,500 or something like that to remediate the mold. And then beyond that, the biggest cost, he's very much correct, the biggest cost is the AC replacement.
Are you going to have to remediate actively in the kitchen? Will you
No.
have to- No.
No,
So they
there's
can
no,
still
there's
use
no
the
mold in the
kitchen?
kitchen. Yeah, they can still use the kitchen.
good.
The only thing they'll have to do is isolate out of the bedroom for probably a day to remediate, a day, maybe 2 days. And then they'll be able to actually go back into the bedroom and sleep in there now. They won't have to sleep in our office. Some of them are going to choose to because it's a whole lot cooler in my office and in the front office than it is in the bedroom. But they'll be able to do that at least. And then the shower, we'll get the women's restroom remediated pretty quickly too. And then they'll be able to once we do the remodel or replace whatever they take out, they'll be able to go back in there. And that would be a priority, is to replace whatever they remove in the women's shower so we can get the women's shower back open, so.
Do we have time to put this out for bid, or are we going to accept what we got right now?
That's gonna be my next question.
Do we have time for our people?
So you can.
DKI is the company we had come in, and they were given the remediation plan that was done by the mold remediation specialist. They were given the remediation plan, and they were the company that was suggested by our mechanical engineer. So that's why we went to them for a quote. Obviously, we can ask for a couple more quotes on the remediation, because we have a remediation plan. So we can ask for a couple more quotes on the remediation, but I don't want to delay the project too long.
Yeah.
But we can certainly do that.
Well, he's local and you don't have to go there.
Yeah, because he's right down the
South
road.
Georgia.
We pass him every day. He's here in town, yeah. So we can certainly do that. So,
Mayor, we do have the vendor information for the 2013 remodel and AC, so we
Okay.
have all the vendor info.
Okay.
For clarification on getting the other bids, are we talking about bids for every contractor or just the mold remediation?
I just think we need to work out the remediation now.
Yeah. I think
That's
way to
the
start.
pressing issue.
Let's start with that.
I mean, it's not a huge cost, though.
No,
No,
but
it's-
the mechanical engineer suggested that we do the remediation, pull everything out,
Yep.
and replace all the duct work at the same time. All
Okay.
the duct work in the bunk room has to be changed at the same time because you're converting to a completely new system.
So absence of
so
the new air handler, just the ductwork itself when the drywall is off.
Correct. So everything that needs to be pulled out, the ceiling tiles and the drywall and everything else, we would try to schedule that as best we could to have the work completed at the same time.
Right.
Because we know that duct work is going to have to be changed out. It's a new system that's going from a 5-ton outside on the ground to a full system up on the roof. So it's totally different duct work as well.
Right.
So per the mechanical engineer, we need to try to do that at the same time.
Okay.
My concern with the bid process is that we don't want to delay this any more than we already have. This was first noticed on July 3rd. It has been 5 weeks. They've been living like this. So we have been able to get some incredibly wonderfully talented people in, and John Comley at Heritage is a valuable asset, and he is a very smart man, and we are in this position that we are, getting the help that we need because of him. So I respectfully request that we pull the trigger on this.
Okay. You guys
As
are the ones
soon as
living in it.
possible.
I'm okay with that if that's what you guys need.
And we'll have a conversation, the chief and the city manager will have a conversation, but I also encourage us to look into alternative lodging if we need to, next door in some way, shape, or form. And pulling in Alan, I'm going to volunteer Alan for his help too. Because
Okay.
yes, we do need to find the guys a comfortable place to be.
Yeah.
We don't know how long the project will take, and yes, they can isolate it room by room, but we need to make sure that it's done right the first time.
And if we're isolating it, if we're doing it room by room, if we're doing the ductwork at the same time as the remediation, there's no AC. Period. Because the ductwork's
Right.
coming out at the same time the remediation's done, that building's gonna get hot.
So the only air is gonna be that front part.
Yeah, in the front office, that's it. Well, that's the only place there'll be air
I mean, we
conditioning.
can talk about it all night, but we know what we gotta do. I mean, this is a no-brainer. You gotta fix it. You gotta fix it. I mean, it costs $300,000, you still gotta fix it. They can't live in there like that, and we shouldn't ask them to do that. So I'll make a motion that we fix the mold issue and we put a cap of 250 on it. Anything over that, it comes back to us just for approval to move higher.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Madam Mayor, your purchasing policies have an emergency urgent purchasing section. Notwithstanding any provision of law, a department head may make or authorize others to make emergency purchases when there exists a threat to public health, welfare, and safety under emergency conditions, which shall be considered to also mean those situations where the operation of a division or department would be seriously impaired if immediate action were not taken. The prior established purchasing thresholds shall not apply to emergency situations. There are two types of emergency purchase orders, urgent and emergency. Urgent purchase orders occur when an urgent situation arises that could have been anticipated and pre-planned. Urgent purchases shall be kept to a minimum since it tends to be disruptive and increases the cost of processing. Emergency purchase orders occur when an emergency situation arises that was unforeseen and must be remedied immediately. I believe this would fall within the emergency purchase order of your policies.
Yep. Agreed.
So, and then it goes on, purchasing orders for emergency or urgent purchase orders. When requirements for emergency purchase orders occur, you must follow these steps. Contact the known suppliers, obtain price quotes if possible. Contact finance department, explain the emergency and alert them to the purchase. Initiate a purchase order, mark it as emergency. If the purchase order would require city manager approval, the director of finance may approve up to $25,000 with acting city manager or designee authorization. If a check is required, call the finance department to receive approval of special handling. Attach the required documents to the PO and carry it to accounts payable. This is all if it's just simply through your city manager, and of course, we're going through city commission, so that section doesn't apply.
Certainly qualifies as an emergency situation, however, based on all of that.
Mr. Marshall, can we get that report from the employees by next city commission meeting?
Absolutely, we'll work on it next week.
Thank you.
Chief,
Yeah,
what I'll do is I'll go over lunchtime, have lunch with each shift. Good?
Works for me.
And we still try to get other bids
What's that?
for remediation?
No,
No, I
it
think
was
we're
Kevin's
settling
request
on
that
what-
we
right there.
start rocking and rolling.
I'm gonna say this. What happened 10 years ago? You get what you pay for. You always get what you pay for. I've been singing that song since I've been sitting up here. And so many times we try to be conservative, trying to save money, but a lot of times you don't get the same quality of work. We just gotta be careful when you do stuff like that. Because everybody ain't gonna do a great job. Because when I had my business, all right, you want me to cut the price? I'm gonna cut something out. I'm gonna cut something out because I can't make money keeping the same price and getting the same product. So we got to be very, very careful when we
And
start spending money.
The unfortunate part is I don't think this is a brand-new thing. It didn't just start on July 3rd.
No.
This is something that's been building for multiple years. And I'm just the one that inherited it and made the decision to get it fixed. That's all.
Get it fixed.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, any other comments or questions? We've got a motion and a second to authorize spending up to $250,000 out of ARPA for the project. Any other questions? This does not need to be roll call, so. Okay, so it's been properly moved and seconded that we move ahead with a cap of $250,000 to work on remediation of the mold issue at the High Springs Fire Department. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, Chief. Next on the agenda, discuss, consider, and act on a proposal from Paul Stressing Associates Incorporated for the structural mitigation of the Priest Theater.
So we're moving forward with the Priest Theater to do all the structural work that it needs to do. Paul Stressing is the architect that the city uses, and he's put his proposal up on what it's gonna take to get it done, and he's ready to start moving with approval.
So will all the contractors' work go through him?
He'll do all.
And then to us, or?
He'll do all that.
He'll
put it
manage the
out,
project.
help with the bidding process. He'll be here when we open the bids. He'll help through the whole process. He takes care of it all.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay. If there's no more conversation about this, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the proposal from Paul Striston.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we approve Paul Stressing's proposal for mitigation of the Priest Theater. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, Mr. Stressing is approved. Next, discuss, consider, and act on the EDA continuing services contract. We have somebody here from EDA, don't we? We do. I saw you sneak in here. I knew you were here.
Face.
You were quiet.
At this point,
Sorry.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Clay Swager. I'm a certified land planner, one of the partners at EDA Consultants. Our firm has been around for 47 years. A long time we were known as Ing, Denman and Associates, so we have a lot of experience working with local governments, both public sector and private sector work. I've been with the firm about 18 years now. I've got 20 years experience as a land planner. As I mentioned, our firm has a sort of a mix of public and private sector clients. And I had the opportunity to meet with your manager recently just to introduce ourselves and what we do. Our firm is comprised of civil engineers, land planners, and surveyors. So we provide those three services. We serve Hawthorne, Waldo, Fort White, White Springs on a day-to-day basis, on an as-needed basis whenever there's a planning issue or an engineering question as needed. Some communities ask for more help than others. And we also work with Alachua, Newberry, Marion County, Placa, and some others. So we really experience working in the community. We enjoy working with local government. Christie had reached out to us recently about reviewing a subdivision plat. So one of our registered surveyors could review the plat based on Florida statutes to make sure everything is exactly how it needs to be before it's approved by your board and recorded. And that really sort of initiated the conversation. And so we're here tonight just to offer our services, if you see fit, to add us to your list of consultants, to call on us anytime you need us. It may be very often, it may be once a year. It's totally at your discretion. We just offer our services to you, and we appreciate the chance to assist the city in any way we can. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
I don't have any questions. I just have one comment that I've seen you at plan board meetings when you've represented other clients, and you do an exceptional job.
Thank you.
I've been very impressed.
Well, it's a small community. We all need to work together and have
True.
a positive attitude.
Truly. Yes, sir.
We're always coming together for different things, so thank you for saying that.
Gentlemen, any questions, comments?
No, from everything I've heard, everybody's been very happy, so level of service has been very good.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the audience?
I'll make a motion that we accept the EDA continuing services contract.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the continuing services contract with EDA. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you all very much. I'm very flattered. I appreciate the chance to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too, sir.
All right. Last item of new business, discussion on the heavy rescue truck. Chief, this is just your night. We should have made cookies for you or something.
Really not my night, actually. After what I just brought to the table, I'm almost embarrassed to bring this to the table too, but in the roundabout, the way this is gonna save us money in the long run, it's not gonna cost us much more. Obviously, when I started as fire chief here, I was tasked with taking a look at our vehicles, at our fleet. I did a really comprehensive look at things, found some things where we could make some differences and we can make some changes. Obviously, the boat was one of them. By the way, that is gone, it's sold. So Suwannee County purchased it.
Right about the time we.
Right about the perfect time, because they're gonna need it for this week, right? So, so that was taken care of. We looked at our staff vehicles, realized that, those weren't appropriate for what we do. So we came to you and asked for replacement of those vehicles. To Tonight, I'm going to present you a modification to our fleet with our heavy rescue. I want to dismiss a couple of things real quick. When it comes to the heavy rescue, first of all, there's going to be no loss of services when it comes to this heavy rescue. If anything, it's going to enhance the services that we can provide to our residents. Okay? So give me the next slide. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I had it. Right, Aaron? Yeah, he probably would have.
I second
All right,
that.
there we go. So, this is kind of a, yeah, well, hey, no, technologically not advanced. So this is kind of a kind of an idea of what it's going to look like. It's going to be on a Chevy 5500 chassis, not a international chassis. But the rest of it looks about the same as what it will. Four-wheel drive, smaller, more agile, easier to get down some of our more rural roads and things like that. So how do we get here? Okay, we had a squad truck. To my knowledge, this is before my time. We had a squad that was nearing its end of life. The intent of the new heavy rescue was to be a single resource, one large, fully functioning, self-contained unit. And the previous trucks were limited in space because they weren't purpose-built. I've heard some rumblings that, the truck's smaller, it's not going to be able to hold the same amount of equipment. That's just not an accurate analysis. We're going to purposely build this to keep the equipment we have, with the exception of a couple things, on this new vehicle. So we're not going to lose services by moving to it. But why do we do the change? First of all, running a heavy rescue, all members of the team that are going to be on that have to be trained to a certain level. There's 5 different courses that you need in order to operate a heavy rescue as a heavy rescue. Those courses are rope rescue, confined space, VMR, trench rescue, and collapse. When you do the math for all of those classes, and those are very expensive classes because they're highly technical type classes, in order to train 10 of our personnel in those 5 disciplines, which would put 4 personnel per shift, well, 3 personnel per shift on the truck, which is adequate to staff that truck, it would cost us $56,200 to train those people. That doesn't include the ongoing training that is needed every year to keep their skills up. Every 3 months, they need to train. Every 6 months, they need to do another train. They have to continually train. So to keep those certificates up, it's just not feasible. The intent of this truck originally, from what I can gather, was to be the heavy rescue for this portion of the county. And the intent was for it to move and take courses or take calls more down on I-75. And we'll get to that here in a few minutes. So what I did is I formed a committee, 2 people per shift, plus myself and Kevin. And we took a look at, do we need to keep this big, large, heavy rescue truck, or can we move to something smaller and still maintain those level of services? So those 6 people that are on shift, I gave them the task of figuring out what they think would be the best thing for this department. Because the overall consensus with the personnel in the department was, what we have is overkill. It's way too much for what we need, right? So they went through, they looked, they did excessive research. I've got a whole folder here full of research that they did to find out what would be the best thing for us to use. I mean, what we came up with is we came up with a medium-duty rescue that's 4-wheel drive, that's more agile, that's not going to get stuck. So when I say not getting stuck, we have some rural community roads here, okay? Some roads that are very difficult to get down, and I'm going to give you an example that just happened the other day during the storm. During the storm, we had an electrocution call where a gentleman had touched a down power line and was electrocuted. We were only able to get about halfway down that road with the heavy rescue. The fortunate part is that I was here and I knew the call went out, so I went with them. in my Tahoe. They had to pull off the side of the road, get out of that heavy rescue, get into my Tahoe. We had to put it in four-wheel drive to get to the patient. That caused a significant delay in response. However, fortunately, everything turned out well with him. They actually put him in a side-by-side to get him back to the ambulance because it was so bad the ambulance couldn't even get down there. They had to put him in a side-by-side to get him back to the ambulance and transport him to the hospital. Ultimately, things turned out okay. Just last night, they had another call where the heavy rescue was called for. It was one of the calls that we normally go to. But the road was too soft. And before they had a chance to realize the road was too soft, it was buried. That heavy rescue was buried. Again, they had to get out, walk to the call. And this happens quite more often than you would think with that heavy rescue because there are just some places that it can't get to. And those places are places where time is of the essence because this is a medical truck. This is an ALS unit. It's the first out ALS unit to try to take care of our patients and our residents. So what we've come up with is this medium-duty rescue. First of all, we'll have no reduction in services for this medium-duty rescue. It's going to carry the same complement of equipment that our heavy rescue does. Maybe not in the same quantities, right? Maybe a little bit less quantity. The only thing that will not be on the new rescue will be the Cascade system. Cascade system consists of 6 bottles of oxygen or air that are this tall, and they're used to refill the SCBA bottles. We have a system that does that here at the station. We don't need it on scene. It's very rarely used on scene. And if we do need something on scene, there are other resources out there that we can use for that. So that's the only piece of equipment that really won't be on this new medium-duty rescue. Everything else will be on this medium-duty rescue. When we talk about the size of it, again, it's smaller. It's got more capabilities. It's easier to navigate. Going to carry the same complement of stuff. The best thing about it is it's about 1/3 of the price of what we're currently operating right now. Also, you cut 1/3 of the maintenance cost and the upkeep and all that. Let's see. Less fuel. Overall, we're going to be better off with a smaller unit that actually will navigate all of our roads and do everything that we need it to do. So one of the things we need to think about is the replacement process. How do we go about selling the heavy rescue that we have now and replacing it with what we think is going to be the best solution for it? Worst case scenario, we've had some appraisals done on the vehicle itself, on the heavy rescue itself. Keep in mind it's used, it's 2 years old, it's got about 11,000 miles on it. Okay, so it's not in pristine condition, it's not perfect, because it's been down these roads that it shouldn't have been down to begin with, right? But worst case scenario, we look to profit off the sale of this, we look to profit probably about $95,000. Best case scenario, which is what we're shooting for, is our best case scenario, we look to profit around $200,000 on the sale of this vehicle from what we owe to what we think we can sell it for. There are ways to sell it. We could list it on a company called Brindley Mountain. They'll list it for us, but they'll charge us 5% of whatever we sell it for if they bring the customer to the vehicle, right? We've put it out on the Florida Fire Chiefs Association website, and we've gotten 3 emails so far. 4. We've gotten 4 emails from 4 different departments that are interested in it, including GFR, Gainesville Fire Rescue. I spoke with Chief Hillhouse today, and they're kind of interested in it too, so we've opened talks with them. But that's pretty good traction on this. The thing about it is we should not have a problem getting what we're asking for it, and we should not have a problem selling it because in the grand scheme of things, it takes almost 4 years to have one of those built right now. Wow. And if a department wants one now, they have to order it now, and 4 years from now, they'll be able to take delivery of it. The new medium-duty rescue we're proposing, if we move on it soon, as in paying the deposit and getting the process started, we could have that truck by December. We do have a backup plan if we sell the heavy rescue before then. We can move the personnel into the brush truck temporarily and run that as an ALS unit, or we can use even the tanker if we wanted to, but the brush truck would probably be the best unit for that. But what I need is kind of guidance as to where the commission would like us to move with this. I know this is a $265,000 vehicle we're asking to purchase, after I just asked you for $250,000 to fix my AC unit. I know it's to me, it's a punch in the gut. But in the grand scheme of things, this is going to save us $85,000 a year, because our payment on our current heavy rescue is like $85,000 a year.
Not only the training, we're going to save money on the training.
On the training, $56,000 worth of training to get enough people adequately trained to actually operate that vehicle as it is. This vehicle is not even recognized by the county as a heavy rescue currently. The previous interim chief downgraded this truck to a squad because we didn't have enough people trained adequately to respond it as a heavy rescue. So it's being used as a squad now. It's not really being used as a heavy rescue. There was comments about going to I-75. Well, I'm here to tell you, we have not, since I've been here, that squad has not been called to I-75. And I've been here since May 6th. And there's been plenty of accidents on I-75. Our engine has. Our engine's been called there a couple times. But my thought process is, and I'm all willing to help any agency that needs help. Vehicle accidents on I-75 are inherently very dangerous, not to mention they take extremely long to mitigate. Truck could be out there for 2-3 hours sometimes. And what that does is that lowers the level of service we're providing to our residents by having our truck sitting on the highway for that long. I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't bother me if we didn't go to the interstate.
What do we do when y'all make a call to 75? What happens to service here? Do y'all call another crew in?
No, we have an engine. The engine usually stays. If the squad goes, the engine's here. If this engine goes, the squad's here.
Well, how many people do we have here?
We have 5 people.
So how many do you send out if you had to go to 75 versus what's going to be
We
left
would probably
behind?
put 3 people on that squad to send them out because it's very labor intensive. And the same with the engine. The engine would go to the interstate to provide a water source. The county has a heavy rescue almost identical to ours, Heavy Rescue 23. So they have a heavy rescue, which is why we don't get called to the interstate as much anymore, because they send their heavy rescue to most of those calls.
Is that the vehicle that was out Tuesday night?
Which one?
The heavy rescue.
Well, it was probably several of us.
No, I mean, was it at the National Night Out sitting inside?
No,
the
that was the
tent?
rest. That was the engine.
Okay.
That was the engine.
I noticed how heavy it protruded the dirt. I can't imagine what that's doing to the ground.
The heavy rescue is bigger than the engine. It's taller, it's longer, it's bigger than the engine. It's actually a larger truck. Can you imagine that down some of these small paths getting to somebody's house?
A neighbor of mine lives down a lane. That truck could not go down.
Nope.
An emergency situation, they had to walk the
Yep.
stuff in and walk him out.
That's exactly
because
what
that
they
truck
do.
could not get in there.
That's exactly why we want to move to a smaller, more practical, more
I say
agile
move
unit.
with it. Let's get rid of it. Are we going through E1 to get this truck, or y'all going through somebody else?
We're going through a company called Dependable Fire Apparatus. The truck will be, the chassis is up in New York. They're holding it for us because we want it painted the same color as our current engine, which that's all included in the price. But the body and everything else is going to be built here in Ocala.
At
So it's
E1?
built. It's not at E1.
Oh, it's not E1?
Nope. I believe it's I can't remember the name of it's T2 or TL2. They're a company that's what they do. They build rescue bodies for Dependable. They build the bodies for Dependable. So everything will be built right there. It'll be purpose built. We're making it so that when it's time to put the equipment on it, we're going to bring the equipment to them and say, this is the equipment we want. This is where we want it. Build us the proper mounts to put this stuff where we want it. So it'll be purpose built. So we'll be able to fit everything. There's a lot of dead space, believe it or not, in that heavy rescue. There's a lot of space in that heavy rescue that's not being used. And most people don't understand that. when we put this new medium-duty rescue in it, every bit of space is going to be utilized, and it'll be very organized and very well laid out, because I'm going to let the guys that work on that truck and do the work every day determine where that equipment's going to go. So that it's easier for them to use and easier for them to operate. So that's where we're at with the heavy rescue. This is kind of the last piece in the puzzle that we needed to address. And I just wanted to say that, while I'm up here costing the city money, my ultimate goal is to save the city money. This is why we move forward with these other vehicles and doing these other things. So, do you have any questions?
I have a question, a couple questions for you. Does this impact our ISO rating?
No.
Medium rescue does not impact ISO?
No, because the heavy rescue is considered a utility vehicle.
Okay.
And this will be considered a utility vehicle.
Okay.
So no, it's like one for one. It's not going to affect our ISO.
Does it you've already alluded to this, but does it negatively impact our response to somebody in cardiac arrest?
Nope. It's got the same equipment.
Does it negatively impact Little Kim's ability to climb 40 feet down into sinkhole to save a puppy?
Nope, not at all. It's got all the rope rescue equipment, everything that the heavy has on it now, it has on it, and it has the same capabilities. We can get into sinkholes and rescue puppies, cows, chickens,
Well, I mean, that happens.
anything you want us to rescue, we can rescue.
Things fall into sinkholes around here, goats, you name it. It happens.
But
It
keep in
happens.
mind that those kind of calls do usually elicit responses from other agencies to assist. That's not a 3-person or 5-person operation.
Right.
Those are usually several people operations, so we're still going to call people in to assist us with those. But this truck will be able to start that process, no problem.
So
No
then in
problem at all.
terms of financially, the order of operations, if we end up, like you said, with profiting from the sale of the heavy rescue, are we gonna have enough? We're probably not gonna have enough to purchase the other one outright.
Most likely, no.
So then,
It depends on it depends on how much we end up selling the heavy rescue for.
Okay.
If we sell it for what we want to get for it and what we're told we could probably get for it, my rough math says we've profit about $200,000. That leaves about $65,000 left.
Okay.
It's a whole lot cheaper to finance $65,000 than it is to finance,
$850,000.
$875,000
Right.
or however much we still owe on it.
Chief, what's the weight difference on this truck versus the heavy rescue?
Ooh, good question.
Anybody know?
Yeah, about
That's a
30,000 pounds.
huge- Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
Yes, sir.
So
Huge difference.
we have the brush truck.
We have a brush truck, yes.
It's a quad cab, 4-wheel drive on a heavy-duty chassis.
Yeah, it's about the same. It's about the same almost.
So crazy question, just from one first responder to another. Why was that dispatched call not dispatched as, was it not an identified road as a problem area during rain?
No.
So if you'd have taken the engine down there, it would have gotten stuck as well.
More than likely, yeah.
So
because of all
we
the water.
could
in it.
have responded with a piece of equipment we already currently have that is 4-wheel drive capable in order to go out to that instance and in that situation and not gotten stuck.
Had we known, yes.
So it sounds like we have a dispatch issue of what roads are accessible by vehicle, maybe not necessarily a total equipment issue. Because what my one concern is, in about 10 to 15 years, we're going to have 2,500 more homes in this town. That's going to incur 3 to 4 people, cop math, I don't know, 75,000 more people. No, I'm just kidding. But it's going to double us at least.
Right.
At which point in the near, or not in the near future, but in the more near future than I may like, at which point are we going to need another heavy rescue? And then what we bought it for, $875, that truck's going to now cost 1.5 or 1.6 million. Are we handicapping ourselves for future things that we might need if we already have a piece of equipment that during a hurricane can respond appropriately? And I mean, some of those roads, you're not going to get an engine down there. You're not going to get, you know what I mean? I mean, they're just, some of the roads around here are still just tough.
Right. And those roads, it's not really a dispatch issue because those roads may be perfectly fine in a non-tropical storm situation.
Right.
So we don't really know. But for them to identify all the roads that are difficult would be very, I mean, it could be done, but it would be very difficult.
I just remember when the hurricane came through and working in the police department, our guys can't drive for anything.
Right.
Even though we train them to.
Right.
We lost 15 vehicles in one day.
Right.
That they flooded. And just gone. They're gone. So, I mean, we had to identify, like, hey, when the heavy rainfall, this area floods, period, stay away. respond on foot or pray.
So when you're talking about, will it handicap us down the road, we're talking how many more homes?
2,500 at least.
At
And then
least
we not-
2,500 more homes. Those are residential subdivisions, correct?
Yes.
We're not talking like dirt, clay roads or anything like that,
Right.
right? So technical, the possibility of a technical rescue in 2,500 more homes is very, very slim.
Okay.
You know, a technical rescue might happen if somebody was on the water tower and couldn't get down. That's a technical rescue, and even with that, we don't have a ladder truck to get up to them, right? We'll have the rope equipment if we need to go up there and bring them down on ropes, because that'll be on this new vehicle. A sinkhole, okay? We'll have adequate enough equipment to start the rescue, or to at least get down to the to the patient or the cow or the chicken or whatever is down in the sinkhole. And then we'll rely on the other agencies to come and help us with the rest of it, because you're going to need more than just 3 or 5 guys for something like that. But we can start the rescue. We'll be able to start that kind of stuff. Vehicle accidents. This truck will be ready to rock and roll when it comes to vehicle accidents. Any vehicle accident, it'll be able to handle, because it's going to have all the stabilization equipment that the heavy has on it right now. It'll be on this vehicle. So we won't have to worry about stabilizing vehicles or anything like that when it comes to rescue calls or vehicle accidents, because it will have the same equipment on it. It'll have the jaws of life. It'll have all that stuff. So overall, you're really not losing, you're losing a heavy rescue because we're going to a smaller vehicle, but you're still maintaining a rescue or a squad of some sort. It'll be able to go to structure fires. It'll have air packs on it. It'll do everything we need to do. It won't have water on it, obviously. But it'll still be able to do everything we need to do. I don't foresee, unless we have houses closer to I-75, which I don't see how that's going to happen, because we're not going to, unless we annex a bunch of property off of 236 all the way to I-75, I don't see where we're going to have houses close enough to I-75. If we had a station positioned very close to I-75, a lot closer than we are now, then yeah, a heavy rescue would probably well be warranted, because we would probably end up covering that portion of I-75. But we just don't, to me, we're not close enough to the interstate for the county to call us for everything that happens on I-75.
But if their truck's busy, they do call.
Occasionally. Because they use the Quint also. Quint 23 responds quite often in place of the heavy rescue.
Is that out of
So-
Newberry, the Quint?
Where are they at?
I know they have a Quint in Newberry.
Where's 23 at? Fort Clark.
Okay.
Boulevard.
Where is the new fire station that ACFR is building? It's close to the
Right
interstate.
on the other side of 75,
Right.
right, you know where Iliano's is?
Right.
Right behind it.
Right.
On 235A.
So that's going to be where they're going to respond for anything at I-75,
Yeah.
right there at the interstate, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at one point they don't put something like that in that station, because they're right there.
Right.
But their engine, if it's not on another call, will be the one that'll respond to I-75. We will very rarely go out to I-75 anymore once they move that station right there, because they're going to be right there.
Yeah.
What's the lifespan on our engine currently right now? Where are we at
Oh,
as far
we're-
as future?
We got a long life on that
Okay,
engine
so
right
we're
now.
gonna
It's
be
2000
holding on to that for a while.
Yeah, 19 more years. We got plenty of years left
So
in that.
Commissioner Grunner brings up a good point. Are we kicking ourselves in the behind by swapping trucks? But do you foresee us adding another vehicle if we get so much growth that we need it? And if we do, would we go something in between the engine and this truck, or would we need to go back to something bigger or capability?
I would probably, if we got growth to where we needed to add personnel in another vehicle, I would probably add another engine, is what I would probably do. Because you got to remember, engines carry extrication equipment on them too. So they can do the same thing similar things that the heavy can do, except for the technical stuff. But I would foresee adding an additional engine
And the engine's going to be cheaper than the heavy rescue.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, vehicles right now are just ridiculously expensive anyway. I remember back when you could buy a fire engine for $300,000. You can't even buy the wheels for one for that now. So, but yeah, and it depends on where the growth is. I mean, if we open a second station, which is possible with that many more homes, it's possible.
Yeah,
But that's
and-
gonna incur staffing and vehicles, so.
Well, absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean,
Kevin.
it's growing
Oh, yeah, it's definitely
City's
growing,
whether we like it or not.
no doubt.
To your point about apparatus in the future too, is the nice thing about a setup like this is you have your cab and chassis. The rescue body is totally separate. The rescue body typically stays in good shape. So when that truck approaches end of life in about 10 years or so, you take the body off, you remount it on a new truck for a fraction of the cost.
I agree with that.
This truck, the Chevy 5500, it's the commercial chassis ambulance package. So it is specifically built to be constantly running and everything else. And again, the maintenance costs are significantly lower. And because it's a commercial truck and could be brought to a Chevy dealership to be repaired if necessary, we don't have to have.
Is it going to be a diesel?
Yes.
So even if we have to finance $60,000, let's just say for grins, what are we potentially saving in interest payments and keeping the financing with the heavy rescue? Are we still in a net gain position here? Yes. Okay.
That's the goal, is to get us into something that's more practical, that can get down better, that can get down these roads a little bit better.
Right.
You're going to increase response times because it's going to be it's going to be a little faster than that heavy rescue. So we're definitely going to increase response times. If we're going to enhance services, we're not going to, by any means, take services away from the city. It's actually going to enhance the services.
I don't know, just feel not that long ago, we were talking about how great we were, and we were the pride of the county, and now we're selling everything. Fire sale. I get it, that's a pun. Fire sale, everything's for sale. I don't know. This town's gonna look a lot different in 10, 15 years.
I agree with you.
I worry that we get rid of it now, it's gonna wind up costing us $800,000 or $5 or $1 million later that on top of what we already spent and what we already lost, and I don't know.
That's a discussion for the commission to make. I mean, we can make do with what we have. But we'll have to, first of all, the brush truck is not a licensed ALS truck. So for us to put that in the rotation as a ALS unit, we'd have to take equipment off of it because it doesn't have space to hold medical equipment. When we run it ALS, like we ran it ALS for the hurricane, we put it in service ALS. We only did that because we put all our equipment in the back seat and we ran 2 people. So it's not something that we can normally run as an ALS unit. Now, yes, we can chase the squad down there, but then now what you've done is you've taken all of your personnel out of the station, and there's nobody back at the station for that next call that comes in. So, in practicality, it doesn't make a wise choice to do that. Like I said, I happen to be fortunate to be behind the squad that night because it was an electrocution call, and I responded to help them out. And the beautiful thing about that is I now carry ALS equipment on my vehicle. So I've actually enhanced our services to our residents because at any given time, if both of those trucks are on calls, if a third call comes in, guess who takes it? Because I'm a paramedic and I have all the equipment I need on my vehicle. So I take it and I help those residents before the ambulance gets to them. So
What do you see the negative impact? You've pretty much produced the pros, so what kind of cons or negative we going to have if we agree to this deal? Anything?
the perception that we're losing services, I think that's probably the only thing that's negative here.
But we have the same equipment, it's just the
Same
size of the
equipment,
vehicle.
it's just a smaller vehicle, that's all. Everything's the same. We're not going to be losing any kind of services. We're going to be maintaining the same level of service, if not enhancing the level of service, because we'll be able to get deeper down these
Exactly.
roads. So if anything, we're enhancing the services a little bit. We're lowering the response times because we don't have to walk down the driveway to get to somebody's house.
Yeah, because even with the new developments, like Bridlewood, there's still a issue with getting into Bridlewood, right? Didn't they say that it's going to be like problems with getting into it as just a regular neighborhood? So even keeping a heavy rescue would still be a problem even for a neighborhood like
On a small
Brenham.
residential street, would the heavy rescue fit?
Oh, yeah,
fit
I
down
mean,
there?
they-
Okay, okay.
when streets are built and plans are done, they have to be approved by the fire department that they're
Mhm.
wide enough for our fire department vehicles. So no, that's not an issue. The only way it would be an issue is if they were all dirt roads through Bridlewood.
right.
But I'm pretty sure they're all gonna be paved.
Yes, yes.
Which is good, so.
So what this comes down to is when we first
Excuse
started,
me.
this is something that was identified to take a look at. The public perception of this truck was bad, and we're spending $90,000 a year on it. What we're giving you tonight is an option. You want us to take a look at it? This is the option that the team and the truck committee came up with. We can keep the heavy rescue, but remember, I've given Chief Peters pretty firm standing order to find a way to start lowering the annual transfer out of the general fund to the fire to help make the fire more sustainable. And this is one of the areas that we identified that we thought the spending outpaced what the city needs. So this is just an option. Again, I talk to the firefighters, I go down to the fire department, and a majority of those firemen say that truck is too big, they don't like working on it, and it's just not practical for what they need now. So this is what they came up with. But if we don't want to change it, they'd be happy with it. It's a beautiful truck. There's no arguing, that truck is gorgeous. It's just more than what High Springs needs now. And the perception is not just the public, it actually came up as a point of minor conflict when we started negotiating the mutual service agreement with the county, is the perception of how much we're spending on this fire department, and the county wanted to start reducing what they got or what they give us. And we've talked to them about the steps we're taking to remediate that. Again, this is just options presented to you is for discussion tonight on what direction you want to go. We need a direction whether you want to keep the heavy rescue, and if we do, then I suspect, or then we need to look at the training costs, $56,000.
We wouldn't have to incur that all at once. I could slowly send people to school, but I have to have people that are willing to go to school.
Yep.
They're willing to take those classes.
Or-
And not everybody's willing to do
Do
that.
we get rid of it? And we took the first step of, people were saying it's worth this much, and people were saying, no, it's worth this much. So we went out and got an appraisal, tell us how much it's worth. We know how much it's worth, and we're gonna try to sell it for what it's worth, if that's the direction the commission wants to go. But again, this is just options for you to discuss. You don't wanna move forward with it, this whole thing goes away, we stick with the heavy rescue and move forward. If you want to, then we need to discuss how we're gonna phase out the heavy rescue, sell it, because what we don't want is a long lag period where we sell the heavy rescue next week and we can't get the new truck till December, and they're running a temporary ALS truck on a brush truck. So what we're trying to do is get guidance from the commission, on how to move forward so we can come up with an action plan that minimizes the impact on the community for rescue services.
Yeah, in my opinion, for me personally, I feel like we should do the replacement. We just went to a budget workshop where we were arguing about a $10,000 tree, but we want to do a $56,000 trainer every year. That's
It's not every year.
It won't be
well,
every year.
well, just even one year, $10,000, $56,000. That's a big difference. So to me, replacements make sense, but.
I don't think we need a vote tonight either. We don't need a vote tonight. I think it's just discussion so Chief, sorry, not me, this is all Chief, knows which direction to head in and where we dedicate our time and our efforts.
Yeah, because we really need, if we're gonna go with a medium-duty rescue, we really need to kind of have an idea if that's the route we want to go, so we can start the process of the new medium-duty
We need to put a
rescue.
deposit on that
Right.
chassis.
Well, what more information are we going to be given to make this decision, other than what you've proposed tonight?
I can give you what the chassis cost is, because they can give us a significant discount if we pay for the chassis in advance. And then I can give you all the rest of the specs on how much it's going to cost for that new medium-duty rescue, which basically is $265. It's close to that. The chassis, I think, 77. I think it's
So
77,000.
do we have the
for chassis.
funds to put the money down for a deposit before the heavy rescue is sold?
Would be a question for Diane.
So we'll
I
provide
mean, to be able to
options.
start this process,
Right. In order to start this process, we really do need to start the process with the new medium-duty rescue. I feel confident we're going to be able to sell the heavy. And then
so you
whatever.
already got 3 people that's
Yeah, we got
contacted?
four emails in one day, because we just posted it yesterday afternoon. And we got 4 emails from the Florida Fire Chiefs Association in one day. And I talked personally with somebody from GFR this morning.
And
So
that's without going through the
that's without going
company?
through, yeah, we haven't listed it. We
Then
haven't listed it
Why
on
can't we
the,
save ourselves that percentage
that's why
rate?
we're doing that.
And my question is, what money, cash money, do you need to put the deposit down, and where are we gonna get that from to get going?
I can get you the solid number, but I don't know the exact solid number. I can get that for you, and then I can let you know.
Is that coming out of ARPA, or?
So what we need tonight is direction on which way you want to go. Stick with the heavy rescue or go with the medium rescue. Then, once I know what that is, we can formulate an action plan. One thought process was, we purchase the truck with the ARPA funds, and then whatever we profit from selling the heavy rescue replenishes that. So, for example, we'll take $265,000 out of ARPA, just roughly, put it down, get the new truck started, sell the heavy rescue, and we profit 150. We put that 150 back into the ARPA, and we've already financed, or the rest of the truck is paid for. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
Okay,
just one thought process, but again, tonight, we don't need to decide on that. We need to decide which truck do you want.
I have the number for you, by the way. It's $77,790 to start the build on that new medium-duty rescue. The remainder of the money will be due when the medium rescue is done. So this could be just a $77,000 removal out of the ARPA funds, because when we get the proceeds from the heavy, it'll pay for the rest of this.
So
Keep in mi-
if we don't sell the heavy though, if
Okay.
we put it out and we can't sell
sell
it,
it.
Right.
can I get my deposit of 77 grand back, or? well,
No,
yeah,
that's
I'm-
a
there
kind
ain't
of
no
a-
chance I'm giving you a check for
Yeah,
$77,000 until I got cash in hand from
And
this
see,
heavy rescue.
that's
Ain't
my
no
I'd have to be
chance.
guaranteed that heavy rescue's out of here, because we
Yeah.
can't
Right.
do that to the city.
I kind of agree with you on that.
Yeah, I don't want us to put ourselves in a spot where we have to sell it, and then we
Right.
make nothing off of it.
That's right.
I don't want to put ourselves in that spot. I don't,
Okay.
uh,
That's why
you know,
we're having this
and-
conversation. This is why I wanted to have this conversation.
and now you
see
see you
where
got
you
4
guys stood.
people looking at it. But they're just looking. They haven't
Right, they're just
quoted no
looking, right.
prices, no nothing. And I don't want to take a loss.
No, I don't
We
want either.
We don't want to take a loss.
No. My goal is to make enough on the heavy rescue to pay for this.
Yeah, and I want, and also.
That's my goal.
To that point, we won't take a loss. If it gets to the point where we're taking a loss, that deal dies. We will not take a loss on it.
Okay, and I was kind of concerned about the future, but will we ever need it in the future? I don't know. I'm quite sure you say went from
The thing
$300,000 a
about
few
it-
years ago to this kind of money. Well, it's going to be like
Oh,
5 to 10 years from now, $2 million.
I agree, but in the way in the manner that this heavy rescue is being used right now, it's not going to live its life, because it's going to end up destroyed.
So what's the life on it?
It should have a 20-year lifespan on it, because fire engines have a 20-year lifespan. It should have a 20-year lifespan. But the way it's getting beat up right now, I don't know if it's going to live 20 years.
Is the engine not going to live 20 years then?
The engine might, but the rest of the body might fall apart.
No, I'm saying the
Yeah,
engine won't make it 20 either,
should.
but the heavy won't.
They both will. But the heavy, the thing about the heavy is where it's going, where it's responding
beat up.
to, it's getting beat up. That's why I'm saying it's
The engine getting beat up then.
because the engine doesn't go down these roads. The engines go to mostly structure fire calls, fire alarms, structure fires, vehicle accidents. The engine doesn't respond to a lot of the medical calls. They respond to some of them, but they don't respond to the majority of them, where the heavy rescue is responding to all of the medical calls for the most part. So that's the one that's going down all these smaller roads and all these, it's basically, we're driving around in a very extremely large, oversized rescue truck, is really what we're doing. Because we're not using it for its intended purpose, because we don't have the people trained to use it for that purpose. So,
Do we have anybody who wants to be trained on it?
there might be a couple people in the department, but most people are not interested in doing all those tech classes. That's very labor-intensive and very long process to get those done. So most people don't want to. I've polled most of the people and most of my guys, and most of them, we might have 2 or 3, maybe. Currently, we have 2 that are certified. So, all the way with all their tech classes, just 2. I would need at least 3 per shift, so I would need 7 more people to commit.
You made a
to go to
statement
training.
that if we move on this, we can get the truck by December. What is our timeline of having to make that decision on a deposit to get this truck going if we so choose to go this way?
They're holding the chassis in New York City for us right now. They're holding it. They haven't moved it down here to Florida because if they want to repaint it up there.
They can only do that for so long.
Right.
If somebody's got money in hand that wants it, they gonna get it.
Yeah, and then, I mean, ultimately, what we would do is just have them give us another chassis. I mean, it wouldn't stop the process. It would just take that chassis out of the running. That's all it would really do.
Instead of December, might be January, February.
So
Right.
If we wait
Any
till
idea of-
January, though, we'd have to make the payment on the heavy rescue.
Right, and every month now that we're keeping this heavy rescue, the payoff goes up by $2,500 a month for every month now that we keep it. So if we keep it all the way till January, we're talking another, what, 20,000, 30,000?
To pay
Once
off the
again, police
note.
math, sorry. 5, yeah, 10. Yeah.
$10 million.
Yeah. So, and then if it goes all the way to December, then yes, we do have to make the full payment on it in December, which would be another $85,000.
Basically a 90 to 120 day bill.
Mhm.
So when we're booked for bill is when that 90-day clock starts. So when we started this process initially, it was November. Now that we're into August, it's December.
Right.
So again, it's that 90 to 120 day window bill.
So for the direction to kind of move this along for the evening is nobody's comfortable with putting any deposit down until we have cash in hand or at least a purchase order for the truck. So let's just pause. We just need some direction. So what I'm saying is we will pause. We will keep advertising and try to sell this heavy rescue. Once we have an offer, we will come to the commission and we will formulate. I just needed to know, do we want to keep the heavy rescue or do we want to look at this option? So what we'll do is we'll keep trying to sell the heavy rescue now. Once we have a serious offer on it, we will come to you and say, this is how much we're going to make on it. This is how much we can put down. This is how much we'll have to finance if we go on this new truck. That's what we'll do to kind of move this along for the evening. Does that sound fair to you,
Yeah,
Chief?
sounds good.
Just, the only thing about it is, we will have to reduce services as a temporary, not really reduce services, but it's not an ideal situation to use the brush truck for that 90 to 120 days for ALS. It's doable, we've already checked with the state, they're fine with it. Just letting you know, the longer we wait on it, the more time, the longer that time frame goes. So if tomorrow we get a heavy rescue offer, we'll bring it to you at next commission meeting and let you know where we stand. Does that sound
Absolutely.
amenable to everybody on the commission?
Yes, sir.
That's fine.
Okay.
One more question.
So-
I'm gonna be clear on one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
We're not gonna lose any service
No,
downsizing to this truck, to the citizens of High Springs.
no, when that new truck arrives, it's going to have the same level of service as the truck we're going to sell. Now, in the interim, if we sell the heavy, if we sell that heavy before this truck gets there, when it comes to that truck, we will lose extrication and technical rescue services when we're running out of the brush truck for rescue calls. But that'll be temporary. Once this new truck comes in, that'll all come right back, because we can't carry extrication equipment and all those kind of things on the brush truck. We just don't have the space. So, but we'll still have advanced life support services. We'll still be able to take care of our patients medically. And our engine has extrication equipment on it. So we're not losing that service. It's just not being provided by that particular vehicle. It's still there. Now, my question too is we obviously have it posted on the Florida Fire Chiefs Association website. That's where we got these interest in. We need to really keep using that vehicle until we get a solid offer on it. Is that feasible? Because I know normally, before you can try to sell something, you're supposed to surplus it. But if we surplus that heavy, then we eliminate anything to use until we sell it.
Diane,
Speaking of the heavy.
correct me if
There it
I'm
goes.
wrong. There's nothing, we don't have to surplus it just to put feelers out to see what it is. Once we have an offer, before we can accept that offer, we have to surplus it. So when we get an offer, we will bring it to the commission to say, this is the offer. And again, if we're losing money, I'm not bringing it to the commission. I'm gonna deny it right off the bat. We're not gonna move forward with that. But if we have an offer where we will have money, I will bring it to the commission at that time, so you have a better picture of how much we could put down on this, and we could surplus at that time. Is that correct?
That would be fine. And also, I mean, I think that we can sell it with a date certain to deliver. I mean,
Mhm.
ordinarily, they're gonna wait 4 years. If you say you need to wait 4 months, I think they're gonna be okay with that.
Mhm.
I would-
Right.
That's just, so I think that you can build into that transaction a date certain so that we can get the surplus designation
Mhm.
done here and still get everything else done on time. I don't know, that's my
Agree with
assumption.
that. And the other
Yeah.
thing, Kevin and Chief, if you guys could come back with, are we piggybacking on the purchase of this with some other governmental entity, or
No, we're
what are
not.
we? How are we bidding it out for the purchase of this particular piece of equipment? In other words, when you come back with a Silverado, how are we justifying the purchase
This vehicle
price?
is a custom vehicle. It'd be a sole source purchase because they're the only ones that build this particular body.
Gotcha.
So to my knowledge, that would be a sole source
We'll
purchase.
look at that and make sure how we're doing it.
I'm just throwing that out. I'm assuming that's what's going to be.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
sir. All right, moving on. City Attorney report and update.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager.
So, National Night Out, big success, good fun, a lot of, people sitting on this dais getting dumped.
Yes,
Good
we
time.
did.
Hats off to the police department, they put on a really good
Yeah, they did.
evening, and I think the community that came out had a good time, and they should be commended. Let's talk about this hurricane. So, a couple of things that I'm glad it was, sorry. I'm glad that, this hurricane wasn't a big one. We got to, try out some things. So, for example, these generators that we put on the lift stations, 2 of them did not come online. So we had to go out and put a generator on one and a backup, or, a pump on another. And we were able to get through the storm, and we already have contacted, they're coming out to fix the problem and retest it. So it was good, nothing real severe, was a chance for us to test out these generators. Also, we had a police car, or a police officer responding to a downed tree, and while he was sitting in the police car, another tree fell and hit the police car. Did quite a bit of damage, but the good news is the officer is unscathed. Reminder, the ribbon cutting for the Douglas Community Center is this Saturday at 11 o'clock. And the last thing I want to talk about, you want to put those pictures up I sent you? Is we met for the wastewater treatment. This is the sinkhole that just recently opened up. These sinkholes are becoming a problem. It has pushed the project timeline back 8 months. And they say we have enough funding. Every meeting, I harp on them on it. Enough that the next meeting, they're going to bring back solutions that if we don't have enough, what does the project look like that still meets the standard, getting the water quality the water quality is gonna exceed what the new standard's supposed to be set by the state. This will exceed it. We're gonna look at some other ways, to do it, but this is what they're dealing with out there. This is the sinkhole.
Do we have other options than what we're going, Mr. Testa touched on it earlier tonight. I mean, this is just, this is never gonna stop. I mean,
The sinkholes are not gonna stop with this. It's the
and if,
geology
is
of
this
our-
where we're gonna have one of those tarp-like covers? That's gonna get sucked right in the ground and that's going in the aquifer.
Yep.
What is our other options to this town for sewage, wastewater?
So that's what we've got them come back to the next meeting for what is the options and what solutions are they gonna offer. As you remember at the last commission meeting, the mayor had some questions about it that was beyond my expertise, so I invited her out so she can get firsthand instead of me being the messenger every time. She was able to do it, and she expressed the same concerns that I've been expressing about these sinkholes, the cost of it, and she brought up about the tarp getting sucked under. They're fairly certain that's not an issue by the way they're treating these sinkholes, but I'm not sold on it.
Well, we better park our heavy rescue out there
Yeah, no, I'm not.
to
I'm
rescue
not sold-
workers
I'm
and
not
everybody
sold on
else.
The project is way into what's going on. I don't like it. Let you know, I don't like it. I think there was better, but it's grant funded, and I just want to kind of give you an update. This is what they're dealing with out there.
So if
That's
we had to
in,
do a 360 and go a different direction, how much money are we gonna have as far as grant funding to go a different direction?
Not enough. No, they.
So we're still gonna be hurting with this project.
Yes. So they're confident in this project.
How long has this problem been going on? I meant, when do we gonna call it quits? This,
Yeah.
When they first started doing that, now, that's not the first time they having sinkholes out there.
No.
When we
No,
started-
that's what I'm-
First
No.
started this project.
No.
Even before, I think, Lon Kelly, we bought that from, they was having this problem with sinkholes. That's the reason that we are.
So the infiltrated wetlands is the way the state wants to go. They're trying to get away from spray fields. They say this is the way to go. And again, this started way before me.
and
We're kind of the guinea pigs, but the problem with that is what's the term? The geology, is that the right term? I'm not a scientist. The geology of High Springs, this is what you're going to get.
absolutely.
So they're injecting, they make this
Like a slurry.
a slurry, that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking slurry, and they're injecting them to where they did this radar system that goes underneath to identify where sinkholes are going to be prone, and they're injecting this slurry to prevent it and also to fix them. But there's been so many that open up that they're testing them, and it will hold water for almost a day, and then a sinkhole will go up. So they gotta drain it and fix that sinkhole, then flood it again, and just wait for the next sinkhole, and that's it's pushed the project back 8 months.
Well, I
So
know
the
a lot of
three-
people that live out there don't have city water, so they got well water.
Yes, sir,
So
they do.
there's monitoring wells, and we are looking to see when last time they was tested, but each time they have tested those monitoring wells, there hasn't been an issue. That was brought up about the neighboring wells. There hasn't been an issue, and they do test the monitoring wells. We brought that up as a concern at the meeting as well, and they're gonna look and see the last time it was and see if it needs to be retested. I don't think it's gonna be any change for it compared to what it was before. But I just kinda wanna give you an update. So, when we sit in this meetings, all these engineers and really smart people, way smarter than, well, me. The main three things I hold them accountable for is, one, is the project being done to standard? Is it gonna do what the project has said it was gonna do? Lower our water levels to exceed the state standard? Is it project on time, and is it on budget? one of those three are gonna give. So I kind of held them and I asked the questions and they didn't answer and I kept coming back to the questions, those three questions. So finally I got them to commit. It's 8 months behind project when they've been telling me it's on time, it's on time. Finally, today, I told them it is not on time. How far? 8 months. Is it on budget? We have a little bit of wiggle room in there. Not enough where I'm real comfortable, enough that we said, bring us alternatives. At this point, we have to start looking at alternatives on this. So next month at the meeting, they're gonna provide alternatives that if these sinkholes keep coming up, or we keep running into issues and it's sucking up, so these sinkholes are just draining because it costs so much to fix them. That I said, we have to start looking for Plan B and Plan C, and that's what they're gonna bring to the next meeting but it has to, I told them, it has to stay at standard. We are required, I think it's like, that has to be below 3.
Three is the new.
We're gonna be at 1.5, so we're gonna exceed the standard and whatnot. That's the main concern to me, is the quality of the drinking water. If it takes an extra 8 months, not ideal, but I'll bend on that. But things I can't bend on is the standard and the budget. We said we weren't gonna put anything into it. It's grant funded. So that's where we're at with that. I just wanted to give you guys an update of what they're dealing with out there and why it's moving slower. Again, I'm not real crazy about the whole project, but we are so far into it that we have to kind of keep moving, but they've been tasked with bringing Plan B and Plan C.
If this was active right now and that sinkhole happened, can we afford to, I mean, we would have to take responsibility for that, wouldn't we?
Yep.
That's gonna cost us thousands upon thousands to repair that.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're looking at alternatives. I don't like,
I know, and then it's gonna put our city in even much of a deeper financial ruin.
What they said was that this is the biggest sinkhole that's opened up. But when the guy is out there on site, he's patching one and he's watching another one opening up. He's working 6 to 7 days a week. Our contractors are out there all the time. And the change orders haven't really come in much. There's been some, but in terms of being on budget, this is phase 2 of the infiltrated wetlands. The engineer feels confident that phase 1 will hold. They've gotten it to a point where they think it will hold. They can line it, they can put the plants in it, they think it will hold. Phase 2, this is what we've got. And they're still discharging to the spray field. We've got 20 acres of spray field, so they're using that. And then the other 20 acres of former spray field they're using for the infiltrated wetlands. What DEP, I mean, if you've ever seen an infiltrated wetland system at Kanapaha Wastewater Treatment Plant, beautiful, beautiful place if it works. Well, we're putting effluent from our wastewater treatment plant into these infiltrated well, they're not wetlands yet. We're discharging hundreds of thousands of gallons of effluent, wastewater effluent, right into the Floridan aquifer. It doesn't have an opportunity to percolate through the soil for more treatment. So if we're discharging at 10 milligrams per liter of total nitrogen right now, which is what we are permitted to do, it's going right into the Floridan. Doesn't go through like it does in the spray field. So the spray field is still working. It has sinkholes open up in it too. But they're more chimney-like. They're a little bit easier to deal with as opposed to this. And we should have done advanced water treatment. That was one of my first questions for the engineer 2.5 years ago. And I think we're at a point now where we need to pump the brakes, reach out to DEP, and see if they will permit our discharge method to be, if they can get phase 1 of the wetlands to hold and the spray field to be able to discharge in both ways and give us at least a full year of a weather cycle to make sure phase 1 of the wetlands will hold. If it's not going to hold, it's not going to matter. We're not going to get more polishing like we would from wetlands. We're not. And I think we need to go back to the drawing board and see what the engineers can do in terms of design. We've got the 2 tanks there that are standard wastewater treatment plants. Can the engineer design some kind of tertiary treatment? Both of those tanks come to another treatment to reach advanced water treatment so that your total nitrogen limits are meeting your discharge limits already at the plant. If that's the case, then the spray field would work. If the wetlands hold, it works. But
Well, it'd be a
trying to
good
patch
test.
this.
It'd be
Sorry?
a good test to see if it's going to work.
Well, I mean, but we've got to get DEP to make sure that that's they would allow that by permit. Right now, I think we are allowed to continue using the spray field by permit. I think we need to extend that for at least a year and stop throwing money into this, because this is the nature of karst geology. High Springs is unique. There's nowhere else in the world like this. DEP loves the infiltrated wetlands, but like Mr. Marshall said, ground penetrating radar, they did a geotech investigation of the whole site. The GPR never showed this. That's just karst geology. And I'm not convinced, like Mr. Marshall is, that this is ever going to work. And we're going to keep throwing money away at this. We can't afford to. So I think we're at a point where, you know, the engineer redesigning the plant so that maybe it could be AWT after the fact certainly is a big challenge. But I've never met an engineer that said, I can't design that. But we would have to find more funding. We don't have money for it. But as it is right now, 10 milligrams per liter of total nitrogen is going right into the aquifer, and that's not achieving anybody's goals.
So the purpose, again, for this city manager's report, I keep coming giving you an update. Every time I meet with them, I kind of wanted to give you guys a visual. This is what they're dealing with. This is why it's 8 months behind. And I'm okay with it being behind, as long as the standard and the funding's there. We can bend a little bit on the time frame. And that's all I have for my city manager's report. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Commissioner Blesworth? On that happy note.
My employee of the week is Jacob from the with the maintenance department. When you see Jacob, he is always excited to be working for the city of High Springs. And I just want to remind everybody that the Chambers Back to School giveaway is this Sunday at 4 o'clock at the museum. We got 500 backpacks to give away, so if you know somebody that need it, make sure they come out and get a backpack.
Well done, job well done, Chief, on National Night Out. Well done. And for those that say, Commissioner Williams didn't get into the water, I don't get in nobody's pool. I have swimmer's ear. If you ever go through what I go through when the room be spinning, you wouldn't get into the water neither. So don't look at me negative, because I did not get in the water. All right? All right, Byron, no Byron, for 66 years now. And I don't like going to the hospital. And I'm going to say this. No, for the last year or so, we've been talking about no money, no money, no money. How are we going to afford to do this? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? So why don't we come with a solution how we can get more revenue? Why we can't start thinking, how can we get more revenue? Because we don't need revenue. And we all know stuff is not getting any cheaper. Stuff is not getting any cheaper. I hate to drive by the gas station and fill up. So we got to start thinking, how can we generate more revenue to pay the bills? Like a household. If I ain't making enough money, I got to go get a second job to make some more revenue. So we got to start thinking, how can we generate revenue to run this city? It's a mess. It's a mess. So we got to start thinking out the box. Got to take care of the citizens. Citizens want fire department. The citizens want police department. The citizens, when they turn on their water, they want the water to come on. When they flush the toilet, they want to go somewhere. So we must start thinking, how can we generate more revenue to run this city? We keep cutting, and I'm trying to be nice here. I don't want to be a Waldo. I don't want to be a Waldo. Anybody ran through a Waldo within the last year?
That's a dead city.
It's dead. I mean, I say it's dead. And it got a major highway running through it. But it's still dead. So I don't want us to become another Waldo. So please, let us start thinking about some kind of way we can make some revenues. I know we got cut, but you got to bring something in to take care of the bills. We got to start thinking that way. That's my spiel for tonight. That's being the seniors, y'all call me.
Elder statesman.
Okay.
I'll piggyback on that. Could not agree more, but I think everybody knows where I stand on opening up certain things, but I agree. Got to get revenue in here. Got to pay to play. That's all I got to say.
All right. Chief, thank you for National Night Out. Chief Peters, thank you for being there. The Women's Club was there, and they were wonderful. It was a great community event, and I really appreciate it. And Chief, it was kind of fun to dunk you, I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed that. We missed you.
Yep.
I'd have gotten you wet. I would have been happy.
Love it, dunk tank, too.
Oh, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Mr. Marshall was a heck of a trooper, being the first one up there, and boy, all those kids were just running up and pushing the button. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I wanted to, I discussed this with Mr. Folds, Mr. Walker, as a sidebar, and then Danielle followed up with me to discuss the possibility of putting forth a resolution to establish a minimum lot size in High Springs. That entails a lot more than just passing a resolution, I understand. But I know that the city of Gainesville recently passed a minimum lot size, and they decreased theirs to 35 feet. I believe it's 35 feet. If we were able to establish a minimum lot size by resolution first of 100 feet, that would be a quarter of an acre. Obviously, that wouldn't apply to anything that's already permitted, everything that's already passed. But going forward, could we do something like that, just to pass a resolution that that's our intent? Because obviously, that's the first shot across the bow. You've got the LDC and the comp plan and the future land use map. There's a lot more, and it would be expensive to do. But can we do that?
I think that process, in order to change ordinances, you have to pass an ordinance.
Okay.
So, and it would have to be pretty comprehensively looked at, because you have various zoning categories in your residential, mixed use, your PUDs, you know, all of those areas. So, for example, in a PUD, you have flexibility to put more intensive housing over here and maybe more open space over here and have mixed uses. So I think you'd have to change more than one category, and you'd have to do something very comprehensive, both in terms of your comprehensive plan and your actual land uses as well. So it would be something that you would need to look at comprehensively. And Christie, I think, perhaps Clay, that you approved this evening, you know, it would have to be something that would be done uniformly and then come back as a proposal to generate something that, answer to your question is yes, it could be done, but I think it would be something that would be an extensive rewrite of your land use plan and your comprehensive plan as well.
Well, I didn't think that it would be a quick or certainly cheap option. It's, you know, something that's could take years, I have no doubt. But I imagine other commissioners up here hear the exact same thing that I hear all the time. It's just that packed it in, you know, we're 50-foot lots, 60-foot lots, 70-foot lots. People here don't want to see that. So if we can get ahead of it over the next year or two, I would just want to throw that out there. I don't know how much it would cost, or...
I think it would be doable. I think, and I do think a lot of the work could be done internally. Christie's, in my opinion, very, very talented. So I think a lot of that could be done internally. Maybe the first step would be to send to planning and zoning the idea, you know, maybe at this meeting or a future meeting, to bring this up on the table. And then get direction from the majority. Do we want to do this? Is this something that we have an interest in, that the frontage of every lot in residential or all categories would be a minimum of 100 feet?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we have an interest. This is just,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
I don't know how the rest of the commission feels about it, but...
So maybe put it as an agenda item in a future meeting.
Okay.
And then send it to P&Z and have staff start working with P&Z to see if this is, you know, what planning and zoning believes on this, and then bring something back to you with the intent that future residential in the city would be less intensive and more
Okay.
expansive. And there's other things that go into that perhaps, like Clay Swager could speak to, that what does this do to overall housing costs? And you know, the idea, I think right now, from a planning and zoning standpoint, is we're going to smaller houses, tiny houses, smaller lots, to reduce the overall cost of housing and make it more affordable. So then do you also instruct, speaking of Gainesville, they're passing measures to allow for affordable housing and residential, and then what does that do to the rest of the residential as far as the valuation is concerned? So there's lots and lots of
Right. I know it's
thoughts
not a
to go
simple
through.
process, but it's just throwing the idea out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And the only other thing I had to say was a huge congratulations to the youth production at the Playhouse. We had a blast. The Wizard of Oz was amazing. The mayor of Munchkinland was probably my favorite, if I had to pick a favorite, but they were incredible. So, and that is all I have, gentlemen.
Madam Mayor, before
Yes,
you
sir.
close, I
Yes,
thought
sir.
of one thing that I meant to say at attorney comments, so if you don't mind.
Sure.
Our newest law clerk she's a second-year law student at University of Florida Law School, Katie Chronister. She was a pitcher a couple of years ago. She was a softball pitcher for the Gators. She is fiancés with Grant Holloway, who
that's
won
very
the
exciting.
110
Yes,
tonight.
indeed.
So somewhere along the line, Katie's going to come with us to a city meeting, because I really want her to see what municipal work is all about. And
Be cool if she could bring your
yeah,
fiance.
it was a
just
great
saying.
day in the law firm as we were all in the
That's
audience
awesome.
watching Grant win
Very
the gold.
cool.
So
Too much to get him now.
No, sir. He'd come for the love of his life, wouldn't he? That's very
Big
cool.
posters around town with him on it.
I think they said if the University of Florida athletes were represented, they'd have the 12th most number as a country.
it's amazing.
That's amazing. That's great. That's great. All right, gentlemen, we've been here a while. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.